Imagine walking into a room with calm confidence, knowing that your presence is felt even before you speak. Imagine living in such a way that people around you respect your strength, admire your discipline, and deep down fear the idea of losing you because they know your value is not something easily replaced. But let's be honest, how often have you felt invisible, overlooked, or taken for granted by others? The truth is this: people only value what they cannot easily find. If you live without principles, without boundaries, without habits that set you apart, then others will treat you as ordinary, because you've given them no reason to treat you otherwise. But if you build yourself on Stoic discipline, unshakable self-control, and powerful daily habits, you will naturally command respect. You won't need to beg for attention because your life itself will demand it. Today, you're going to discover 12 Stoic habits that will not only transform the way you live, but also the way others see you. These are not tricks, not quick fixes, but timeless principles tested by some of the greatest minds in history. Once you live by them, people will think twice before taking you for granted, because losing you will be something they cannot afford. So get ready, because after this video, you will never look the same in the eyes of others again. Before we begin, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Write in the comments, "I cannot be replaced." You're not just writing a phrase, you're planting a seed of strength in your mind. The more you repeat it, the more you believe it, and the more others will begin to feel it. So, write it down now, and let's begin. Number 1. Self-control. Hold yourself back. Control your impulses. Do not be the slave of every desire, every urge, every emotion that comes knocking at your mind. Were you born to be ruled by food, by lust, by anger, by laziness, or to rule over yourself? Every day you face a choice: to act like a master or a servant to cravings, to moods, to distractions, or a master who decides what he will do, how he will act, and what he will not allow to control him. Self-control is the foundation of all strength. Without it, nothing else lasts. You can have talent, intelligence, opportunities, but if you cannot control yourself, you will waste it all. The Stoics knew this truth. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. What does that mean? It means that no matter what happens outside, no matter what people say, no matter what temptations present themselves, the real battle is always inside. And the only one who can win or lose that battle is you. Think about the moments when you lost control. Maybe you shouted in anger and later regretted it. Maybe you gave in to an urge you knew you shouldn't and afterward felt weak. Maybe you wasted hours on distraction instead of doing what you needed to do. In those moments, weren't you defeated by yourself? Weren't you enslaved by something smaller than you? That is why self-control is not optional. It is survival. To practice self-control, you must start with the little things. If you cannot say no to a small temptation, how will you say no to the big ones? If you cannot stop yourself from reaching for your phone the instant it buzzes, how will you stop yourself from breaking under pressure when life demands real discipline? Each small act of self-control is training. Each no to weakness is a yes to strength. When you feel the urge to react, pause, count to 3, breathe. Ask yourself, am I acting from reason or from impulse? That short pause is the difference between mastery and slavery. The weak man reacts immediately. The strong man holds himself, chooses his response, and remains unshaken. Do not confuse self-control with suppression. Suppression is when you bury your feelings and pretend they don't exist. That only makes them stronger later. Self-control is different. It is seeing your desires, your emotions, your impulses clearly, and then calmly deciding, I will not be ruled by this. It is not running away from temptation. It is standing in front of it and saying, you have no power over me. Look at the world around you. Most people live without self-control. They are pulled from one distraction to another. They scroll, they consume, they react, they explode, they give in. They are pushed around by every small thing outside of them. And what is the result? Weakness, chaos, regret. Now, imagine the opposite. Imagine you becoming unshakable. Someone insults you, you stay calm. Someone tempts you, you stay focused. Someone tries to drag you into nonsense, you rise above. What would happen if you lived like that every day? People would begin to notice. They would see that nothing shakes you, nothing controls you, nothing makes you lose your balance. And then they would fear losing you. Because people instinctively cling to what is rare, and self-control is the rarest of all qualities in this world. How do you build it? Start now. The next time you want to check your phone, wait 5 minutes. The next time you want to eat something out of boredom, drink water instead. The next time anger rises, breathe before speaking. These are small battles, but small battles win the war. Each act of control builds muscle in your mind. Each victory makes the next one easier. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all trained themselves daily in self-control. They reminded themselves that a man who cannot master himself will be mastered by others, and if they, facing war, exile and betrayal, could remain in control, what excuse do you have when faced with a simple craving, or an unkind word, or a passing temptation? Remember this: self-control is not about denying life. It is about owning life. It is not about rejecting pleasure. It is about not being enslaved by it. It is not about suppressing emotions. It is about choosing not to let them steer your life off course. So the next time desire comes, the next time anger burns, the next time laziness whispers, stand tall. Do not let yourself be carried like a leaf in the wind. Say to yourself, I am the master here. I decide. That is the voice of self-control. That is the mark of a Stoic. And when you live like this, others will feel it. They will sense your strength, your discipline, your calm power. They will know that you are not ordinary, not weak, not replaceable, and they will fear losing you. Number 2, emotional strength. Your emotions are powerful. They can lift you to greatness, or they can drag you down into weakness. Most people let their emotions control them like waves in a storm. One moment lifted by joy, the next moment crushed by anger, fear, or sadness. But you were not created to be tossed around like that. You were created to stand firm, to face the storm without breaking. That is emotional strength. Think about how easy it is to lose control when emotions rise. Someone insults you and anger explodes. A plan fails and despair takes over. A person leaves and suddenly you feel worthless. In those moments, are you in control, or are you a puppet, moved by strings you do not even see? Emotional strength is cutting those strings. It is the ability to feel deeply, but not be ruled by feelings. The Stoics never taught that you must become cold, lifeless, or without feeling. They taught that emotions are natural, but you must decide how to respond. Marcus Aurelius felt sadness, anger, and temptation, just like you, but he trained himself to pause, to think, to rise above. He reminded himself, if it is not under my control, then it cannot harm me. That is emotional strength, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Ask yourself, when was the last time emotion made you weaker? When you lashed out in anger and damaged a relationship? When you panicked and made a poor choice? When you let sadness keep you in bed instead of moving forward? Each time, the emotion was not the real problem. The lack of strength to master it was. Imagine the opposite. Imagine feeling the same anger, but choosing calm words. Imagine feeling fear, but acting with courage anyway. Imagine feeling sadness, but still standing tall, still doing what must be done. That is emotional strength, choosing response over reaction, action over paralysis, clarity over chaos. How do you build it? Start with awareness. When an emotion rises, do not act immediately. Step back, breathe, ask, what is this feeling trying to make me do? Do I really want to obey it? That pause gives you power. It gives you the space to choose. Over time, each pause strengthens you. Each controlled response builds resilience. Do not misunderstand. Emotional strength is not about suppressing or denying your feelings. It is not pretending you are fine when you are not. It is acknowledging what you feel, but refusing to let it control your actions. A strong man does not avoid the storm. He walks through it, upright, unbroken. Look around you. Most people have no emotional strength. They react instantly. They rage online. They complain endlessly. They panic at small problems. They fall apart when things go wrong. They live as slaves to feelings they cannot control. And because of that, they live weak. But you will be different. You will feel what others feel, but you will stand where others fall. You will remain calm in chaos, steady in conflict, strong in loss. And when others see that in you, they will know you are not ordinary. They will fear losing you because emotional strength is rare, and rare things cannot be replaced. Remember this: emotions are visitors. They come and go. But your strength remains if you build it. So when anger comes, let it pass through you without burning you. When sadness comes, let it sit beside you without breaking you. When fear comes, let it knock on the door without letting it in. You are the master of your inner fortress. Nothing enters unless you allow it. So hold the line, stand tall, let emotions move through you, but never control you. That is emotional strength. That is Stoic power. And when you live like this, others will see it. They will respect it, and they will fear losing you. Number 3, honesty. Honesty is the foundation of trust. Without it, no relationship, no friendship, no partnership can stand for long. To lie is easy. To bend the truth is tempting. To hide behind half-truths feels safe. But every lie is a chain you place on yourself, every false word a crack that weakens the structure of your life. Honesty is not just about what you say to others. It is about the courage to face the truth within yourself. Think about the times you were dishonest. Maybe you lied to avoid judgment. Maybe you pretended to be someone you were not. Maybe you told yourself excuses to cover your own weakness. What was the result? A moment of relief, perhaps, but afterward, regret, guilt, and a heavier burden to carry. Lies demand more lies. Excuses demand more excuses. Soon you are no longer living freely, but trapped in a prison of your own making. The Stoics taught that truth is strength. Seneca wrote that a man who speaks truth walks with light, while the liar stumbles in darkness. Why? Because honesty clears the mind, while lies cloud it. When you are honest, you are unshaken, because you have nothing to hide. When you lie, you are always afraid of being discovered, afraid of being exposed, afraid of the truth itself. Is that strength or weakness? To be honest is not only about telling the truth to others, it begins with being honest with yourself. Stop pretending you are doing enough when you are not. Stop saying, "I'll change tomorrow," when you know you are wasting today. Stop blaming others for failures that came from your own lack of discipline. Honesty with yourself is the hardest form of honesty, but without it, you will never grow. You cannot fix what you refuse to face. Think about this. If you lie to yourself, you make yourself your own enemy. You hide your flaws, and so you keep them forever. But if you are honest, brutally honest, you expose them, and only then can you conquer them. Honesty is not comfort. It is pain first, freedom after. Lies are comfort first, pain forever. Which one do you choose? Now think about honesty with others. What do people value most in a friend, in a partner, in a leader? Trust. And what builds trust? Honesty. If people know your word is true, if they know you say what you mean and mean what you say, they will respect you, even if they don't always like what you say. But if they sense dishonesty, even once, their trust is broken, and once broken, it rarely returns. Honesty does not mean cruelty. It does not mean using truth as a weapon to hurt others. It means speaking clearly, fairly, and without deception. It means not hiding behind masks, not playing games, not manipulating. It means letting your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Simple, clean, strong. The world is full of lies. People exaggerate, pretend, hide, and fake every day. That is why true honesty stands out. It is rare. It is powerful. And when you live honestly, people will see you as different, solid, dependable, unshakable. They will know that you are not like the rest, and they will fear losing you, because people always fear losing what they can trust completely. How do you build honesty? Start by cutting out the small lies. Stop exaggerating your stories. Stop pretending you feel fine when you don't. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Speak simply. Live in a way that you do not need to remember what you said, because it is always the truth. Then turn that honesty inward. Face your weaknesses. Admit your failures. Look at yourself without filters. That honesty will burn at first, but it will purify you. Remember this: honesty is freedom. When you lie, you become a prisoner. When you tell the truth, you walk as a free man. Lies weaken the soul. Truth strengthens it. So live with honesty in every word, every action, every thought. And when others see that in you, they will know you are rare. They will know they can trust you, and they will fear losing you. Number 4, quiet confidence. True confidence does not need to shout. It does not need to boast, to beg for attention, or to prove itself with noise. Quiet confidence is the calm certainty that you know who you are, you know your worth, and you do not need anyone else to validate it. It is power without arrogance, strength without show, certainty without pride. Think about the loud ones, the ones who constantly brag, who need to be seen, who cannot stop telling the world how great they are. Why do they do it? Because deep down, they are insecure. They want approval. They want applause. They want to cover the emptiness inside with noise outside. But the man of quiet confidence does not need that. He already knows. He does not need the world to clap for him to keep moving forward. The Stoics lived this principle. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome, the most powerful man of his time. Yet he wrote in his private notes, Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Do you see the difference? Loud confidence talks, quiet confidence acts. Ask yourself, when you walk into a room, do you try to be noticed, or do you let your presence speak for itself? Quiet confidence is when people feel your strength without you needing to announce it. It is when your discipline, your self-control, your actions show what words never could. And the truth is this: people trust quiet confidence more than noise. Noise fades, real strength endures. Quiet confidence begins with self-respect. You cannot expect others to respect you if you do not respect yourself. Do you keep your promises to yourself? Do you stand by your values even when no one is watching? Do you carry yourself with dignity, not just when others see you, but always? Confidence built on outside approval will vanish when that approval disappears. But confidence built on self-respect remains unshakable. This kind of confidence does not need to compare. You do not measure yourself against others because you know your path. You do not envy because you are focused on your own progress. You do not boast because results speak louder than words. That silence, that calmness, that unshaken energy, that is what makes others notice you more than any bragging ever could. How do you build quiet confidence? Through action, through discipline, through mastery. Stop talking about what you will do and start doing it. Stop seeking validation for every small achievement and keep moving forward. Stop explaining yourself endlessly and let results explain for you. Each small victory, each kept promise, each act of self-mastery builds confidence within you. And when confidence comes from within, it no longer needs to scream. Remember this: confidence is not pretending to be fearless. It is acting with strength even when you feel fear. It is not needing to convince anyone of your value because you live it daily. It is not arrogance, because arrogance tries to make others small. Quiet confidence simply stands tall. Look at the people you respect most. Are they the loudest, or are they the ones who speak little, but when they speak, their words carry weight? Are they the ones who brag constantly, or the ones who live with such consistency that their presence commands respect without effort? That is quiet confidence. The world is full of noise. Everyone is trying to be heard, trying to be noticed, trying to prove themselves. But when you carry quiet confidence, you cut through that noise without saying a word. People notice your calm. They notice your control. They notice your presence. And deep down, they know this kind of strength cannot be replaced. So walk with steady steps. Speak with calm words. Do not rush to prove yourself. Do not beg to be seen. Be certain of who you are, and let that certainty shine without noise. That is quiet confidence. That is Stoic strength. And when you live like this, people will respect you, admire you, and fear losing you. Number 5, letting go. Life will test you. People will hurt you. Opportunities will pass, and things you once held close will slip from your hands. Most people cling tightly, holding on to what is already gone, refusing to release what they cannot control. But the harder you cling, the more you suffer. The Stoic way is different. It is the strength of letting go. Think about how much pain comes from attachment. You replay old arguments in your mind. You cling to relationships that have ended. You hold on to mistakes from the past or fears of the future. And all the while, the present moment slips away. You cannot change what has already happened. You cannot control what has not yet arrived. The more you hold on, the more you weaken yourself. The Stoics taught this clearly. Focus only on what is within your control. Everything else, praise, rejection, gain, loss, life, death, is outside of you. Epictetus said, "Some things are in our control and others not." Happiness and freedom begin with understanding this. To let go is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the understanding that your energy must not be wasted on what cannot be changed. Ask yourself, what are you still holding on to? A grudge that poisons your thoughts? Regret that drags you backward? Fear that keeps you from moving forward? What good has it done you? Has it made you stronger? Or has it chained you in place? Letting go is the key that unlocks those chains. To let go does not mean to stop caring. It does not mean to become cold. It means to release the illusion of control. It means saying, I cannot change the past, but I can control my response today. I cannot control others, but I can master myself. I cannot hold on forever, but I can move forward with clarity. That is true strength. Look at nature. The tree does not cling to its leaves when autumn comes. It lets them fall because it knows new ones will grow in spring. The river does not hold its water in fear of loss. It flows, and because it flows, it remains alive. Why, then, do you cling so tightly to what is already gone? Letting go is an act of courage. It is easy to stay angry, easy to hold grudges, easy to keep replaying the past. It is harder to release it, harder to accept what is, harder to move on with peace. But peace only comes through release. As long as you hold on, you remain stuck. How do you practice letting go? Start small. When someone offends you, instead of replaying their words all day, breathe and release it. When plans fail, instead of mourning the loss endlessly, ask yourself, what can I do now? When you feel regret rising, remind yourself, the past is not mine anymore. Each time you release, you strengthen yourself. The weak man clings, the strong man releases. The weak man chains himself to what he cannot change. The strong man walks free, light, unburdened. And people will notice this in you. They will see that you are not broken by loss, not consumed by anger, not trapped by regret. They will wonder how you can remain so steady when others fall apart. And then they will fear losing you, because someone who can let go cannot be controlled, cannot be manipulated, cannot be replaced. Remember this, letting go is not giving up. It is rising above. It is choosing freedom over chains, peace over turmoil, clarity over confusion. Life is short. Do not waste it carrying what was never yours to keep. Release the weight. Walk forward with strength. That is letting go. That is Stoic freedom. And that is how you become someone others cannot bear to lose. Number 6. Daily self-check. Most people go through life without ever stopping to examine themselves. They wake up, rush through the day, react to whatever happens, and fall asleep without reflection. And then they wonder why nothing changes. The Stoics knew better. They practiced the habit of daily self-checks, moments of honest reflection to measure their actions, their thoughts, and their progress. Without this, you live blind. With it, you live awake. Think about it. How often do you stop and ask yourself, did I live today the way I should? If you don't, how will you know whether you are improving or wasting your days? A soldier inspects his weapons daily before battle. A craftsman checks his tools before work. Why would you face life without inspecting yourself? Seneca wrote that every night before sleep, he reviewed his entire day. He asked himself, what bad habit have you cured today? What fault resisted? In what way are you better? This was not for guilt, it was for growth. Because reflection is not about beating yourself down. It is about lifting yourself up by seeing where you must improve. Daily self-checks keep you honest. They stop you from drifting. They reveal patterns you might ignore. Did anger control you again today? Did you waste time on distractions instead of your goals? Did you keep your word or break it? These questions sting, but they make you stronger. Better an honest sting than a comfortable lie. And self-checks are not only about faults, they are about victories too. Did you show patience where once you would have snapped? Did you practice self-control when temptation came? Did you act with courage, with honesty, with discipline? Celebrate those moments. They show progress. They remind you that growth is happening slowly but surely. The truth is, a man who never examines himself cannot grow. He repeats the same mistakes year after year until life ends, and nothing has changed. But the man who reflects daily, adjusts, improves, sharpens himself like a blade. He does not drift. He directs. He does not waste. He learns. And because of this, he becomes stronger every single day. How do you practice daily self-checks? Keep it simple. At night, before sleep, sit in silence for a few minutes. Replay the day. Ask, what did I do well? What did I do poorly? What will I do better tomorrow? Write it down if you can. Journaling is a powerful tool because words on paper make thoughts clearer than thoughts in the mind. In the morning, you can also prepare yourself. Ask, what challenges might I face today? How will I handle them? What virtues must I hold to? This prepares your mind before the storm arrives. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning. He reminded himself, people today will be selfish, dishonest, and rude, but he would not let that corrupt his own character. That is the power of self-checks, awareness before the fight, reflection after the fight. Most people avoid self-checks because they fear what they will see. They fear the truth about their laziness, their lack of discipline, their wasted time. But ignoring the truth does not make it disappear. It only makes it stronger. Face it instead. That is where growth begins. And when you live like this, constantly checking, constantly correcting, you become sharper every day. Others will notice. They will see that you are not stuck, not stagnant, not the same year after year. You are moving forward. You are improving. You are rare. And they will fear losing you because people always cling to those who grow, who rise, who inspire them to be better. Remember this. An unexamined life is weakness. A daily self-check is strength. Do not let a single day pass without reflection. Do not sleep without asking yourself whether you lived with discipline, honesty, and purpose. Each night, sharpen the blade of your soul. Each morning, prepare it for the fight. That is the Stoic way. That is the power of daily self-checks. And that is how you become unforgettable. Number 7. Courage. Without courage, every other virtue collapses. What good is wisdom if you are too afraid to act on it? What good is self-control if you are too scared to stand firm? What good is honesty if you lack the courage to speak the truth? Courage is the root that allows all strength to grow. Without it, you live small. With it, you live free. Think about fear. How many times has it stopped you? Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of pain, fear of loss. You knew what you should do, but fear whispered, "Stay back, stay safe, stay comfortable." And so you hesitated. You stayed silent. You missed your chance. Later, regret burned you more deeply than the fear ever did. This is the truth. Fear will always be there, but courage is choosing to act anyway. The Stoics faced fear constantly. Marcus Aurelius led armies into war. Epictetus lived as a slave, beaten and broken. Seneca faced exile and death, yet they did not crumble. Why? Because they understood that courage is not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. Courage says, "Yes, I am afraid, but I will not obey fear. I will move forward anyway." Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you acted with courage every time fear appeared? How many opportunities would you have taken? How many dreams would you have chased? How many moments of strength would you have lived? You already know the answer. Your life would look completely different. Courage is not always grand gestures. Sometimes it is small, silent choices. Speaking the truth when it is easier to stay quiet. Saying no when everyone pressures you to say yes. Taking the first step toward a goal even when you feel unprepared. These are acts of courage too, and each time you choose courage, you weaken fear. Each time you step forward, fear loses its hold. The weak man hides behind excuses. He says, "I'll wait until I'm ready." He says, "Now is not the right time." But deep down, he knows the truth. Fear controls him. The strong man sees fear and still steps forward. He may tremble, but he acts. And in action, fear loses its power. How do you build courage? Practice it daily. Do one thing that scares you. Speak up when you feel nervous. Try something new, even if you might fail. Face discomfort on purpose. Step into situations that test you. Courage is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. The Stoics reminded themselves that death itself is nothing to fear. If death is natural, why should lesser things terrify you? Loss, failure, rejection. All of these are small compared to the certainty of death. And if death cannot be avoided, then what excuse remains for living timidly? Courage is the only answer. Look around you. Most people are ruled by fear. They avoid conflict. They avoid risk. They avoid truth. And because of that, they live half-lives, always hiding, always shrinking, always regretting. But when you live with courage, you stand out. You become the one who does what others will not. You become the one others look to when things get hard. And people will fear losing you, because courage is rare. A courageous man is priceless. He is the one who walks into fire when others run away. He is the one who stands tall when others collapse. He is the one who cannot be replaced, because true courage cannot be faked. Remember this: courage is not about feeling no fear. It is about refusing to let fear control you. It is about stepping forward when everything in you screams to step back. It is about living boldly, speaking truth, taking risks, and facing pain without retreat. That is courage. That is Stoic power. And when you carry it, people will respect you, admire you, and fear the thought of losing you. Number 8, focus on what you can control. Most people waste their lives chasing what is beyond their power. They worry about what others think. They stress about the future. They replay the past. They try to control people, events, and outcomes that will never belong to them. And what happens? They grow anxious, bitter, and weak. The Stoic lives differently. The Stoic draws a clear line. This I control, that I do not. Strength lies in staying on your side of the line. Think about how much of your suffering comes from breaking this rule. You worry about how someone sees you. You cannot control that. You complain about the weather, politics, or fortune. You cannot control that. You stress about outcomes, but outcomes are never fully in your hands. Only your effort is. So why torment yourself with what belongs to fate? Epictetus said it plainly. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. That principle is simple, but it is the key to peace. When you obsess over the uncontrollable, you are a slave. When you master your focus on what is yours, you are free. What do you truly control? Your choices, your actions, your attitude, your words, your effort, your response. That is all. Everything else, what others do, what others say, what tomorrow brings, belongs to the universe, not to you. And the wise man does not try to steal what is not his. Ask yourself, how much time do you lose every day fighting battles that are not yours? How much energy do you waste on people who will never change, on fears that may never come, on regrets that cannot be undone? And then ask, what could you build if you poured that energy only into what you can control? Your habits, your character, your work, your purpose. That shift alone can transform your life. This is why the Stoics seemed unshakable. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire full of chaos, wars, betrayals, and endless problems. Yet he reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He did not waste himself trying to bend the world to his will. He bent himself to meet the world with calm strength. Focus is power. When you give your mind only to what is within your control, you become unstoppable. Distractions lose their grip. Fear fades, anxiety dissolves, because you stop demanding control over what was never yours in the first place. You accept reality, but you master yourself. How do you practice this? Start by noticing when you drift into worry. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release it. When you face setbacks, ask, what can I still do right now? When people wrong you, ask, how should I respond? This habit, practiced daily, will give you peace in chaos and strength in uncertainty. Most people fail because they fight the wrong battles. They try to control others instead of themselves. They demand guarantees instead of working with what they have. They cling to illusions and suffer endlessly. But you will be different. You will focus on what is yours, and because of that, you will grow stronger while others grow weaker. And people will notice. They will see that nothing shakes you. They will see that while others panic, you remain calm. While others rage at the uncontrollable, you work steadily on what you can. They will feel your clarity, your discipline, your calm power, and they will fear losing you, because people instinctively hold tightly to what is rare, and a man who focuses only on what he controls is rare indeed. Remember this, control is an illusion everywhere except within yourself. Your thoughts, your actions, your choices. That is your kingdom. Guard it, master it, rule it, and let the rest go. That is freedom. That is Stoic strength. And that is how you become irreplaceable. Number 9. Simple living. The world shouts at you to want more, buy more, chase more. More possessions, more luxury, more recognition. But the more you pile onto your life, the heavier you become. The Stoics knew the opposite truth. Strength comes from simplicity. To live simply is not to live poorly. It is to live free. Think about it. How much of your stress comes from chasing things you do not need? You buy to impress, not because it serves you. You work yourself sick to afford things that bring only a moment of pleasure. You compare your life to others and feel empty because they seem to have more. But tell me, who really owns who? Do you own your possessions, or do your possessions own you? Seneca warned of this trap. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. The one who needs little is the richest of all, because nothing can enslave him. Simplicity is wealth. Greed is poverty. Simple living does not mean throwing everything away. It means cutting what does not matter so you can focus on what does. Why keep clutter in your home, distractions in your mind, and meaningless pursuits in your life? Strip them away. What remains is clarity, freedom, and strength. Ask yourself, what in your life weighs you down? Useless possessions gathering dust? Endless distractions stealing your focus? Fake friendships draining your energy? How much lighter would you feel if you let them go? Simplicity is not loss. Simplicity is gain, because when you remove what does not matter, you finally see what does. Look at Marcus Aurelius. He could have drowned in wealth and luxury. He was emperor of Rome. Yet he reminded himself daily to stay simple, to eat modestly, to dress plainly, to avoid being softened by excess. Why? Because luxury weakens, comfort enslaves. The man who cannot live simply is never free. He is always a prisoner of desire. Simplicity builds strength. When you live simply, you are harder to control. People cannot tempt you with bribes because you need little. They cannot scare you with loss because you cling to nothing unnecessary. They cannot distract you with noise because your focus is clear. A man who lives simply is unshakable. How do you practice simple living? Start small. Clean your space. Remove what adds no value. Spend less time scrolling, more time in silence. Choose quality over quantity in everything: friends, possessions, habits. Learn to enjoy what you already have. Eat with gratitude, even if the meal is plain. Walk outside and breathe without needing anything more. These small acts train your mind to find peace in simplicity. Most people will never understand this. They will keep chasing, keep buying, keep drowning in excess, and still feel empty. But when they look at you, calm, clear, and strong in your simplicity, they will notice the difference. They will wonder why you are not weighed down like them. They will see that you cannot be tempted, cannot be manipulated, cannot be replaced. And then they will fear losing you. Because in a world addicted to noise and excess, the man who lives simply is rare, and rare things are priceless. Remember this: a simple life is not a small life. It is the fullest life. It is the life of clarity, freedom, strength, and peace. The less you need, the stronger you become. That is Stoic wisdom. That is simple living. And that is how you rise above the crowd. Number 10. Kind but firm. Strength without kindness becomes cruelty. Kindness without firmness becomes weakness. But when you combine the two, you become unshakable. A person who treats others with respect and compassion, yet never allows yourself to be walked over. The Stoics understood this balance. They knew that life requires both the softness of kindness and the steel of firmness. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who was kind, but too kind? They said yes when they wanted to say no. They let others take advantage of them. They avoided conflict even when it mattered. At first, people liked them, but in the end, people did not respect them. Kindness without firmness invites disrespect. On the other hand, have you met someone who was firm but without kindness? Cold, harsh, and unforgiving? They might demand respect for a time, but people avoid them, resent them, and eventually abandon them. Firmness without kindness builds walls, not bonds. The Stoic way is different. Be kind, but not soft. Be firm, but not cruel. Treat people fairly, but stand your ground. Speak calmly, but speak the truth. Offer help, but never at the cost of your dignity. That balance is rare, and when people see it in you, they admire it, and they fear losing it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he reminded himself daily to be gentle, patient, and fair with others. But he was no pushover. He enforced discipline, upheld justice, and stayed true to principle even when it made him unpopular. That is kindness with firmness, compassion guided by strength. Ask yourself, where do you fall? Do you let people cross your boundaries because you are afraid of disappointing them? Or do you harden yourself so much that you push people away? Both are extremes. The Stoic chooses the middle path. He offers kindness where he can, but he draws lines that cannot be crossed. How do you practice this? Start by being clear about your values. If something violates them, say no, calmly, but firmly. Do not apologize for having boundaries. At the same time, treat others with patience. Listen before judging. Speak with respect, even when you disagree. Help when you can, but never allow yourself to be drained by those who take without giving. Being kind but firm means speaking the truth even when it is uncomfortable. It means saying, I respect you, but I will not allow this. It means caring for people, but not carrying their responsibilities for them. It means forgiving, but not forgetting lessons. This balance makes you trustworthy, because people know you are not cruel, but they also know you cannot be exploited. Most people fail here. They either become too soft, letting the world use them, or too hard, closing themselves off. But when you live with kindness balanced by firmness, you stand apart. People will notice. They will come to you for guidance, for comfort, for strength, and they will fear losing you, because such balance is rare, and once gone, it is not easily found again. Remember this: kindness makes you human, but firmness makes you strong. Together, they make you unbreakable. Be the one who offers a steady hand, but also one who cannot be pushed off course. Be the one who forgives, but does not forget his principles. Be the one who loves deeply, but also respects himself completely. That is kindness with firmness. That is Stoic strength. And that is how you become someone others cannot afford to lose. Number 11. Independence. Most people live chained to others, chained to their approval, their opinions, their support, their money, their validation. They cannot stand alone, so they bend, they beg, they follow. But independence is the mark of true strength. Independence does not mean isolation. It does not mean cutting yourself off from everyone. It means this: you stand complete on your own. You can walk alone if you must. You are not afraid to lose because you do not depend on anyone to survive. Think about it. How many choices in your life have been made not because you wanted them, but because you feared what others would think? How many times have you stayed silent, not because you lacked truth, but because you lacked courage to stand apart? That is dependence, the fear of being alone, and dependence is weakness. The Stoics lived by independence. Epictetus was a slave, yet he had more freedom than his masters, because he did not depend on wealth, power, or comfort. They could chain his body, but they could not chain his mind. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but he reminded himself daily that praise and blame from others meant nothing. His value came from virtue, not from applause. That is independence, freedom from the grip of others. Independence means taking responsibility for your life. It means not waiting for someone to save you. It means not blaming others for your failures. It means owning your choices and your results. The dependent man always has an excuse. They didn't help me. They held me back. The independent man says, "It is on me." That is strength. How do you build independence? Start by needing less. Depend less on possessions. Depend less on comfort. Depend less on people's approval. Learn skills. Build discipline. Provide for yourself. Strengthen your body. Sharpen your mind. Control your emotions. Slowly, you will see you need far less than you thought, and the less you need, the freer you become. Independence also means holding your ground. Do not change who you are to fit in. Do not bend your values to please others. Do not live for applause, because applause fades. Live by principle, because principles remain. People may agree or disagree. They may come or go. But if you remain true, you remain unshaken. Most people cannot stand alone. They fear rejection. They fear judgment. They fear loss. But you, when you live with independence, you stop fearing. You know you can walk away if you must. You know you can endure solitude. You know you are complete with or without others. And that kind of strength makes people respect you and fear losing you. Because the truth is this: when people sense you are dependent, they take you for granted. But when they see you are independent, when they know you can leave at any time, they hold on tighter. Independence creates value. Dependence creates weakness. Remember this: independence is not arrogance. It is not saying, "I need no one." It is saying, "I do not depend on anyone." You can still love, still connect, still work with others, but you remain whole whether they stay or go. That is true freedom. That is Stoic strength, and that is how you become someone others cannot afford to lose. Number 12. Accepting life. Life will not always give you what you want. People will betray you. Plans will fail. Loved ones will leave. Death will come. Most people fight against these truths. They resist, complain, curse their fate, and break under the weight of reality. But the Stoic accepts life as it is, not with despair, but with strength. Acceptance does not mean weakness. It does not mean giving up. It means seeing reality clearly, embracing it, and saying, "I will live well in spite of it." Think about how much suffering comes not from life itself, but from resistance to it. A man loses something and says, "This should not have happened." But it did happen. A woman grows old and says, "This is unfair." But it is nature. A worker faces hardship and says, "Why me?" But hardship comes to everyone. The more you resist, the more you suffer. The more you accept, the stronger you become. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Accepting life means understanding this truth. You cannot control the external world, but you can control your inner world. You cannot control death, but you can control how you live before it comes. You cannot control loss, but you can control whether you let it destroy you. Acceptance is not surrender. It is clarity. It is saying, "This is the way it is." I do not waste time wishing it were different. I focus instead on how I will respond. That shift alone turns pain into strength, loss into wisdom, obstacles into fuel. The event does not break you. Your resistance does. Ask yourself, what parts of life are you still refusing to accept? Do you deny your past mistakes instead of learning from them? Do you rage at people for being who they are instead of adjusting your expectations? Do you fear death as if it were unnatural instead of accepting it as part of the cycle? Each refusal makes you weaker. Each acceptance makes you stronger. Acceptance also brings peace. When you accept that hardship is part of life, you stop being shocked by it. When you accept that people will disappoint, you stop being crushed when they do. When you accept that death comes for all, you stop wasting life in fear. Peace is not found in controlling everything. It is found in aligning yourself with reality. How do you practice acceptance? Start by reminding yourself daily, life will not go perfectly today. Things will go wrong. People will fail me. Plans will shift. Then, when it happens, you will not be surprised. You will simply respond with calm. At night, reflect. What happened today that I resisted? What would have changed if I had simply accepted it? Slowly, you will see. Acceptance is strength, not weakness. Most people live as rebels against reality. They fight what they cannot win, and they suffer endlessly. But you will live differently. You will accept life, not with bitterness, but with calm determination. You will not waste energy on, why me? You will ask instead, how will I face this? And by doing so, you will become rare. And when people see this in you, when they see that nothing breaks you, nothing surprises you, nothing makes you collapse, they will respect you, they will admire you, and they will fear losing you. Because a person who accepts life fully is free, and freedom cannot be replaced. Remember this, life is short. Do not waste it fighting what cannot be changed. Accept it, embrace it, use it. That is Stoic wisdom. That is true strength. And that is how you live in a way that others will never forget and will fear to lose. Let's go deeper. Letting go. It sounds simple, but in practice it's one of the hardest things we can do, whether it's people, past experiences, or overwhelming situations. The act of releasing something we're deeply attached to can feel like losing a part of ourselves. But here's the truth. Holding on too tightly often causes more suffering than letting go ever will. Learning to let go isn't about detachment from life. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains that keep you stuck. In this episode, we're diving into how to let go of people and situations using insights from Stoic philosophy and modern psychology. You'll learn how to unlock the power of detachment, when to step back for mental clarity, and how to set healthy emotional boundaries. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making space for what truly matters. By letting go, you don't lose control. You gain the freedom to focus on what truly matters. By the end of this episode, you'll have the tools to release what no longer serves you and move forward with a lighter heart, greater peace of mind, and a renewed sense of purpose. Lesson 1. Unlocking the power of detachment. When most people hear the word detachment, they assume it means apathy or indifference, caring less, feeling less, or withdrawing from life. But in truth, detachment is not about removing emotions. It's about freeing yourself from the need to control things you can't control. It's about maintaining your inner peace regardless of what happens around you. Attachment often comes from fear of losing people, situations, or even versions of ourselves. But the irony is, the tighter we hold on to something, the more it controls us. When we become overly attached, we tie our happiness to external factors, other people's opinions, the outcome of a situation, or material possessions. And when those things change or slip away, as they inevitably do, we suffer. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes not from controlling everything around us, but from controlling how we respond. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher, famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Detachment in this sense doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You stop expecting life to conform perfectly to your desires, and instead you learn to adapt, to flow with change, rather than resist it. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you grip it too tightly, most of it slips through your fingers, but if you hold it gently, it stays in your palm. This is the essence of detachment. It's not about pushing things away. It's about holding them lightly without letting them define your inner state. To unlock the power of detachment, start by asking yourself, what am I clinging to that's causing me stress or anxiety? It could be a relationship where you feel overly responsible for the other person's happiness, a situation at work where you're trying to control every outcome, or even a past event that you can't seem to let go of. Recognizing what you're attached to is the first step toward releasing its hold on you. Next, practice mindful acceptance. This doesn't mean passively accepting everything that happens. It means acknowledging what's outside your control and choosing how to respond. For example, if someone's behavior is upsetting you, instead of trying to change them, focus on setting boundaries and managing your own emotions. You can care deeply about someone while still maintaining a healthy level of emotional detachment. Here's something practical you can do each day. Take 5 minutes to reflect on one thing you're attached to that's causing you stress. Ask yourself, is this something I can control, or is it something I need to let go of? If it's outside your control, practice mentally releasing it by saying, I choose to let go of what I cannot control. This simple exercise helps train your mind to focus on what matters and let go of unnecessary burdens. Ask yourself, am I holding on because I truly care, or because I'm afraid of what will happen if I let go? Fear-based attachment only leads to suffering, while healthy detachment creates space for growth, freedom, and peace. Remember, detachment isn't about abandoning people or responsibilities. It's about protecting your inner world from being thrown into chaos by external events. It's about showing up fully, but without clinging to outcomes. When you unlock the power of detachment, you begin to experience life with greater clarity, balance, and emotional resilience. You free yourself from the weight of things you cannot control, and in doing so, you find a lighter, more peaceful way to live. Lesson 2. Stepping back for mental clarity. When life feels overwhelming, when emotions are high and your mind is clouded, it's easy to react impulsively, make poor decisions, or let stress take over. In these moments, one of the most powerful things you can do is step back. Taking a step back isn't about avoidance. It's about creating space between your emotions and your actions so you can gain mental clarity. When you're caught up in the intensity of a situation, everything feels urgent. Your mind races with thoughts, your emotions escalate, and it becomes harder to think clearly. But by pausing and stepping back, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally, you give yourself the opportunity to see the situation from a different perspective. This practice helps you respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Imagine a painter standing too close to their canvas. Up close, all they see are individual brushstrokes and small imperfections, making it difficult to understand the full picture. But when they take a few steps back, they gain a clearer view of the entire painting. The same principle applies to your mind. When you step back from overwhelming situations, you gain perspective. You can see the problem for what it really is, rather than through the distorted lens of heightened emotions. Stepping back can be as simple as taking a deep breath, going for a short walk, or even journaling your thoughts. These small actions create mental distance, allowing your emotions to settle and your mind to regain its balance. Once you've created that distance, you're in a better position to reflect on what's truly happening and decide how to respond in a way that aligns with your values. Stoicism teaches us that clarity comes from calmness. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. By stepping back, you take control of your mind, refusing to let external chaos dictate your internal state. This is where real strength lies, not in controlling every situation, but in controlling how you perceive and respond to it. Here's something practical you can do the next time you feel overwhelmed by a situation. Practice the pause technique. Before reacting, pause for 10 seconds. Take a deep breath, count to 10, or simply close your eyes for a moment. In that brief pause, ask yourself, what's the best response here? Not the quickest or easiest, but the one that aligns with who I want to be. This small practice can drastically improve your ability to make thoughtful, clear decisions. Another method is perspective journaling. When you're feeling stuck or emotionally charged, take 5 to 10 minutes to write down your thoughts as if you were giving advice to a friend in the same situation. This practice helps you step outside your emotions and view the problem from a more objective angle. Ask yourself, am I too close to this situation to see it clearly? If the answer is yes, step back. Give yourself the time and space to reflect. Not every situation requires an immediate reaction, and often the wisest actions come after moments of calm reflection. Remember, stepping back isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. It's a deliberate act of choosing clarity over chaos, reflection over reaction. By making it a habit to step back when things feel overwhelming, you cultivate a calmer, more thoughtful approach to life. You learn to see challenges for what they are, temporary obstacles, not permanent problems. And in doing so, you regain control over your mind and your emotions. When you master the art of stepping back, you not only make better decisions, you also create a life where peace of mind becomes your default state, no matter what storms life throws your way. Lesson 3. Deciding when to distance yourself. One of the hardest decisions we face in life is knowing when to distance ourselves from people or situations. Whether it's a draining relationship, a toxic work environment, or even a personal habit that no longer serves you, holding on too long can take a toll on your emotional health. But how do you know when it's time to create that distance? And more importantly, how can you do it in a way that aligns with your values and preserves your peace? The first step in making this decision is self-awareness. Ask yourself, is this relationship or situation helping me grow, or is it holding me back? Growth doesn't always feel comfortable, so it's important to distinguish between temporary discomfort that leads to improvement and persistent negativity that drains your energy. If something consistently leaves you feeling anxious, unappreciated, or diminished, it might be time to consider creating distance. Many people struggle with distancing themselves because of guilt. You may feel responsible for other people's feelings or worry that creating distance makes you a bad person. But the truth is, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for maintaining your well-being. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control other people, only our own actions and choices. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Distancing yourself is a response, a deliberate act of protecting your emotional health. It's also helpful to reflect on your values. Does staying in this situation or relationship align with who you want to be? Sometimes we stay in unhealthy dynamics out of habit or fear of change. But if staying means compromising your values or well-being, it's worth considering a different path. Remember, creating distance doesn't mean you're abandoning someone or giving up. It means you're choosing to prioritize your peace and personal growth. Once you've decided it's time to create distance, the next step is to do it quietly and respectfully. There's no need for grand declarations or confrontations unless they're absolutely necessary. In many cases, simply spending less time with a person or gradually disengaging from a situation is enough. This quiet approach allows you to protect your energy without adding unnecessary drama. Here's something practical you can do if you're unsure whether it's time to distance yourself. Try a trial separation. Give yourself a set period, say 2 weeks, where you intentionally limit your engagement with the person or situation. During this time, pay attention to how you feel. Are you calmer, more focused? Do you miss the interaction, or do you feel relieved without it? This trial period can provide valuable insight into whether creating permanent distance is the right choice. Ask yourself, am I staying out of obligation, or because this truly adds value to my life? If the answer leans toward obligation or guilt, it might be time to take a step back. Remember, you can care about someone and still choose to protect your boundaries. Distance doesn't erase love or respect. It preserves your well-being. Another key factor to consider is communication. While quiet distancing works in many cases, some situations may require an honest conversation. If the relationship is worth preserving but needs adjustment, consider expressing your feelings and setting clear boundaries. Sometimes creating distance isn't about cutting ties. It's about redefining the relationship in a way that works for both parties. Remember, deciding when to distance yourself is about choosing what serves your growth and well-being. It's not about blame or resentment. It's about creating space for clarity, peace, and personal development. When you let go of what no longer serves you, you make room for healthier relationships, better opportunities, and a life that aligns with your values. Ultimately, life is too short to stay stuck in situations that drain your energy. By learning when and how to distance yourself, you take an important step toward living with greater purpose, peace, and self-respect. Lesson 4. Building trust through meaningful conversations. When life feels overwhelming, one of the most powerful ways to find clarity and emotional relief is by engaging in deep, meaningful conversations with trusted individuals. Human connection isn't just a source of comfort, it's a path to insight, growth, and emotional healing. Talking through your feelings with someone you trust can help you gain new perspectives, challenge negative thought patterns, and uncover solutions you may not have considered on your own. But here's the key: not every conversation builds trust. Surface-level small talk or exchanges filled with judgment don't lead to real connection. Trust is built when conversations are honest, vulnerable, and supportive, when both parties feel safe enough to share without fear of being misunderstood or criticized. It's about opening up, but also about listening deeply and without judgment. In Stoic philosophy, trust and open dialogue were seen as essential for personal growth. The Stoics valued conversations that challenged their thinking in a respectful and thoughtful way. Seneca once wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, seek out people who encourage your growth, not just those who echo your thoughts. Meaningful conversations aren't just about venting, they're about learning, reflecting, and evolving. To build trust through conversations, it's important to create an environment of mutual respect and empathy. This means listening without interrupting, validating the other person's feelings, and offering support rather than unsolicited advice. Often, people don't need solutions. They need to feel heard and understood. Simply saying, "I understand how you feel," or "I'm here for you," can go a long way in strengthening trust. If you're seeking clarity about a difficult situation, don't hesitate to reach out to someone you trust. This could be a close friend, a mentor, or even a professional counselor. The act of speaking your thoughts out loud helps you organize them, and hearing an outside perspective can offer insights you may have missed. Just make sure the person you're opening up to is someone who respects your boundaries and offers a safe space for sharing. Here's something practical you can do. Identify 1 or 2 people in your life whom you trust deeply. The next time you feel stuck or overwhelmed, reach out to them for a meaningful conversation. Start by saying something like, "I've been feeling stressed/confused/overwhelmed about something, and I'd really value your perspective," or "just someone to talk to." Framing the conversation this way invites them to listen without feeling pressured to solve the problem. At the same time, be open to offering support when someone comes to you. Building trust is a two-way street. It's about giving as much as receiving. Practice being present, listening actively, and offering empathy when someone shares their struggles with you. This reciprocity deepens the connection and creates a foundation of trust that benefits both of you. Ask yourself, do I have trusted individuals in my life with whom I can have meaningful conversations? If the answer is yes, nurture those relationships. If not, consider seeking out new connections through supportive communities, groups, or even professional networks where trust and open dialogue are valued. Remember, trust isn't built overnight. It's cultivated through repeated acts of vulnerability, empathy, and understanding. By engaging in meaningful conversations, you not only gain clarity and emotional relief, but you also strengthen the bonds that support you through life's ups and downs. In a world filled with surface-level interactions, meaningful conversations are a rare and valuable gift. They remind you that you're not alone, help you see things from a new perspective, and provide the emotional support needed to navigate challenging times. By building trust and fostering open dialogue, you create a network of connection and strength that sustains you through life's inevitable uncertainties. Lesson 5. Mastering emotional boundaries. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by someone else's emotions, absorbing their stress, anxiety, or negativity as if it were your own? If so, you're not alone. Many people struggle with emotional boundaries, the invisible lines that separate your emotions from those of others. Without these boundaries, it's easy to feel drained, lose your sense of self, and become entangled in problems that aren't yours to solve. Mastering emotional boundaries doesn't mean shutting people out or becoming indifferent. It means learning to protect your emotional well-being while still offering empathy and support. When you set healthy emotional boundaries, you create a balance between caring for others and caring for yourself. You can be compassionate without sacrificing your peace of mind. Why is this important? Without boundaries, you risk taking on emotional burdens that aren't yours. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, resentment, and even strained relationships. Stoic philosophy reminds us that while we can care for others, we must remain in control of our own inner world. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This wisdom applies not only to external events, but also to the emotions of those around us. You can't control how others feel, but you can control how much you let their emotions affect you. The first step in mastering emotional boundaries is awareness. Start by noticing when you're taking on emotions that aren't yours. Ask yourself, am I feeling this way because of my own situation, or because I've absorbed someone else's emotions? Recognizing when you're crossing your emotional boundaries is key to regaining control. Next, practice assertive communication. Setting boundaries isn't about confrontation, it's about clarity. For example, if a friend frequently unloads their problems on you in a way that leaves you feeling drained, you might say, "I care about you and I want to support you, but I also need to take care of my own well-being. Let's talk, but can we keep it brief?" This approach shows empathy while clearly stating your limits. Another helpful strategy is to use visualization techniques. When you're in a situation where emotions are running high, imagine a protective barrier around yourself, something that allows you to empathize without absorbing the emotional weight. This mental practice helps reinforce the idea that while you can care, you don't have to carry. Here's something practical you can do the next time you feel overwhelmed by someone else's emotions. Pause and take a deep breath. Mentally separate your feelings from theirs by saying to yourself, "Their emotions are theirs. I can care without carrying." Then focus on grounding yourself, whether through breathing exercises, journaling, or taking a brief walk. Ask yourself, am I sacrificing my emotional well-being to support others? If the answer is yes, remind yourself that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's necessary. When you protect your emotional energy, you're in a better position to help others without burning out. It's also important to remember that boundaries may need reinforcement over time. Some people might not respect your boundaries right away, but that doesn't mean they aren't valid. Stay consistent. The more you practice setting and maintaining boundaries, the more others will learn to respect them, and the more you'll respect yourself. Remember, mastering emotional boundaries is an act of self-respect and self-care. It allows you to show up fully for the people you care about without losing yourself in the process. You can be kind, empathetic, and supportive while still protecting your own peace. When you set clear emotional boundaries, you free yourself from the weight of emotions that aren't yours to bear, allowing you to live with greater clarity, balance, and inner strength. Lesson 6. Weighing the outcomes of separation. There are moments in life when distancing yourself from certain people or situations becomes necessary for your well-being. But making that decision isn't easy. It comes with doubts, emotions, and concerns about the potential consequences. Weighing the outcomes of separation is a crucial step in ensuring that you're making the right choice, not out of impulse or frustration, but with clarity and purpose. Distancing yourself can take many forms. It might mean ending a toxic relationship, leaving a draining job, or stepping away from a long-term friendship that no longer aligns with your values. Whatever the case, it's essential to carefully evaluate how this separation will impact not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. The goal isn't to escape discomfort. It's to prioritize your growth, well-being, and peace of mind. Stoic philosophy teaches us the importance of intentional decision-making before taking action. The Stoics would reflect on whether a decision aligned with their values and long-term well-being. Seneca advised, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This means that much of the fear around separation is rooted in imagined worst-case scenarios. By weighing the real outcomes instead of fearing hypothetical ones, you can make more grounded, thoughtful choices. Here's how to approach weighing the outcomes. 1. Evaluate the emotional impact. Ask yourself, how does staying in this situation make me feel on a daily basis? If the answer is consistently negative, stress, anxiety, or a sense of being stuck, that's a strong indicator that creating distance might be beneficial. 2. Consider your long-term well-being. Reflect on whether this situation or relationship is helping you grow or holding you back. Will staying here support your future goals and happiness, or will it continue to drain your energy? 3. Acknowledge potential losses. Every separation comes with some form of loss. It could be emotional, social, or even financial. Be honest with yourself about what you might lose, but also ask, is this loss worth the peace and clarity I'll gain? Sometimes short-term discomfort is necessary for long-term well-being. It's also important to remember that separation doesn't have to be absolute. In some cases, creating distance rather than completely cutting ties may be enough. For example, if a relationship is draining but not entirely toxic, you might choose to spend less time with that person or engage in fewer emotionally charged interactions. This allows you to protect your well-being without severing the relationship entirely. Here's something practical you can do when faced with the decision to create distance. Try a pros and cons reflection. Take a piece of paper and divide it into 2 columns. On one side, list the benefits of staying in the situation or relationship. On the other, list the benefits of creating distance. Seeing these factors laid out visually can help clarify your decision. Ask yourself, am I staying because I genuinely want to, or because I'm afraid of the consequences of leaving? If fear is the primary reason, it's worth reconsidering. Often, the fear of change is worse than the change itself. Once you take the step, you might find that what you feared wasn't as overwhelming as you imagined. Remember, weighing the outcomes of separation isn't about finding a perfect solution. It's about choosing the path that best supports your growth and well-being. No decision is without its challenges, but by taking the time to reflect and evaluate, you ensure that your choice is intentional and aligned with your values. Letting go is rarely easy, but it's often necessary. When you carefully weigh the outcomes and make a conscious decision to create distance, you open the door to a lighter, freer life. You make room for new opportunities, healthier relationships, and a version of yourself that thrives, unburdened by what no longer serves you. Lesson 7. Detoxing from social media. In an age where social media has become an integral part of daily life, it's easy to fall into the trap of constant scrolling, comparing, and consuming. While social media connects us to people and information, it also introduces a significant amount of digital noise, distractions, unrealistic comparisons, and even anxiety from endless updates. Detoxing from social media doesn't mean abandoning it altogether. It means creating space for clarity, focus, and genuine connection by limiting its grip on your life. The problem with excessive social media use is that it keeps your mind in a constant state of stimulation. Every notification, post, or like triggers a small dopamine hit, conditioning you to seek more. Over time, this can create a cycle of dependence where moments of silence or stillness feel uncomfortable, But true peace of mind comes not from external stimulation. It comes from learning to be present, reflective, and content with yourself. Stoicism emphasizes the value of focusing on what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must reclaim yourself for yourself." The world distracts you with many things. Focus on a few that matter and let the rest go. Social media can be a valuable tool, but without mindful use, it distracts you from what's meaningful: real relationships, inner peace, and personal growth. Detoxing from social media can take many forms. For some, it might mean taking a complete break for a few days or weeks. For others, it could be as simple as setting time limits on daily usage or unfollowing accounts that don't add value to their lives. The goal isn't to eliminate social media entirely, it's to regain control over how you engage with it. Here's how to start a social media detox. 1. Identify your triggers. Notice when and why you turn to social media. Is it out of boredom, stress, or habit? Understanding your triggers helps you find healthier alternatives, like going for a walk, reading, or journaling that provide genuine relaxation or stimulation. 2. Set boundaries. Create specific times during the day when you'll check social media rather than constantly reaching for your phone. For example, you might decide to check it only after lunch or in the evening, limiting your exposure to digital noise. 3. Curate your feed. Unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate, anxious, or drained. Instead, follow those that inspire, uplift, or educate you. Your digital environment should reflect your values, not undermine them. Here's something practical you can do. Try a 24-hour social media detox. For one full day, avoid all social media platforms. Use that time to engage in offline activities, spend time with loved ones, work on a hobby, or simply enjoy the quiet moments. At the end of the day, reflect on how you feel. Did you miss anything important, or did you feel more present, less stressed, and more focused? Ask yourself, am I using social media intentionally, or is it using me? If you find that it's consuming more of your time and energy than you'd like, commit to creating healthier boundaries. Remember, you don't have to give it up entirely. You just need to ensure that it serves you rather than controls you. Remember, detoxing from social media isn't about isolation. It's about reconnection. By reducing digital noise, you create space for deeper conversations, richer experiences, and greater peace of mind. You learn to be present in your own life rather than constantly watching the highlight reels of others. When you take control of how you engage with social media, you reclaim your time, your focus, and your inner calm. You free yourself from the constant comparison and distraction, allowing room for what truly matters: real connection, meaningful growth, and the quiet, powerful moments that shape who you are. Lesson 8. Prioritizing your core needs. In the rush of everyday life, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Between work obligations, social commitments, and endless distractions, your core needs, those things that nourish your emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, often get pushed aside. But here's the truth. If you don't prioritize your core needs, no one else will. Learning to identify and prioritize what truly sustains you is essential for building a balanced and fulfilling life. Many people confuse wants with needs. While wants are temporary desires like entertainment, validation, or material possessions, your core needs are deeper. They're the things that keep you grounded, fulfilled, and energized. These could be things like meaningful relationships, time for self-reflection, creative expression, or even simple activities like getting enough sleep and spending time in nature. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is essential and to let go of what is superfluous. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This wisdom reminds us that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing more, but from nurturing the essentials that sustain our inner well-being. To prioritize your core needs, start by asking yourself, what are the things that genuinely make me feel alive and at peace? These are often the things that, when neglected, leave you feeling drained or disconnected. For example, if quality time with loved ones is a core need for you, constantly prioritizing work over relationships will eventually lead to feelings of isolation and dissatisfaction. Once you've identified your core needs, the next step is to make time for them intentionally. This might mean setting aside time each day for self-care, saying no to commitments that don't align with your values, or creating boundaries around your work and personal life. Remember, prioritizing your needs isn't selfish, it's necessary. When your needs are met, you're in a better position to show up fully for the people and responsibilities in your life. Here's a simple exercise. Make a list of your top 5 core needs. Next to each one, write down one small action you can take this week to prioritize that need. For example, if one of your core needs is rest, your action might be committing to going to bed 30 minutes earlier each night. If another need is creativity, your action might be setting aside 1 hour to work on a personal project. The key is to start small and be consistent. Ask yourself, am I living in a way that honors my core needs, or am I constantly sacrificing them for external demands? If it's the latter, remind yourself that no achievement or external validation can replace the sense of wholeness that comes from meeting your true needs. It's also important to let go of guilt when prioritizing your needs. Many people feel guilty when they take time for themselves, as if they're neglecting their responsibilities. But taking care of yourself isn't neglect. It's what allows you to fulfill your responsibilities without burning out. When you prioritize your well-being, you not only improve your own life, you also show up better for those around you. Remember, life isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. By prioritizing your core needs, you create a foundation of balance, strength, and inner peace. You stop chasing after things that don't fulfill you and start living in a way that nourishes your body, mind, and soul. When you make time for what truly matters, you don't just improve your quality of life. You become more present, more resilient, and more connected to your purpose. And that's when life becomes not just something you manage, but something you truly enjoy. Lesson 9. Embracing gratitude and the present moment. In a world that constantly pushes us to want more success, more possessions, more recognition, it's easy to fall into the trap of focusing on what's missing rather than what's already present. This endless pursuit often leads to feelings of dissatisfaction, anxiety, and restlessness. But there's a simple yet profound antidote to this: gratitude. When you learn to embrace gratitude and anchor yourself in the present moment, you shift your perspective from lack to abundance, from striving to being. Gratitude isn't about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing the good that already exists, even amidst difficulty. It's about appreciating the small moments, a kind word from a friend, a peaceful morning, or the fact that you have another day to grow and experience life. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you cultivate a mindset of abundance and peace. Stoicism places great emphasis on appreciating the present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, Do not dwell on the past or dream of the future, but concentrate the mind on the present moment. The Stoics believed that true contentment comes not from what you achieve or acquire, but from fully experiencing the here and now. Gratitude is a way of grounding yourself in the present. It reminds you that despite life's imperfections, there's always something to be thankful for. Practicing gratitude doesn't have to be complicated. One powerful method is to start or end your day by reflecting on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand. Sometimes the simplest things bring the greatest sense of peace. Over time, this practice trains your mind to notice the good, even when life feels overwhelming. Beyond gratitude, embracing the present moment means letting go of past regrets and future worries. The past can't be changed, and the future is uncertain. What you have control over is the present, the choices you make, the actions you take, and the way you experience this very moment. When you let go of dwelling on what was or obsessing over what might be, you free yourself to fully live in the now. Here's something practical you can do the next time you feel stressed or overwhelmed. Pause for a moment, take a deep breath, look around you, and find something, anything, you can appreciate in that moment. It could be the warmth of sunlight, the taste of your coffee, or even the strength you've shown in handling a difficult situation. This simple act of mindful gratitude helps ground you and brings a sense of calm to your mind. Ask yourself, am I focusing more on what's missing or what's already present? If you find that your mind often leans toward lack, make a conscious effort to shift toward gratitude. It's not about ignoring your goals or desires, it's about balancing them with appreciation for what you already have. Another way to stay present is by practicing mindfulness, whether through meditation, deep breathing, or simply being fully engaged in what you're doing. Mindfulness helps you slow down and savor life's moments. It's about noticing the details, how the air feels on your skin, the sound of the wind, the texture of the food you're eating. These small acts of presence bring richness and depth to everyday life. Remember, life isn't lived in the past or the future, it's lived in the present. By embracing gratitude and staying anchored in the moment, you free yourself from the constant chase for more and find peace in what is. You realize that while life may never be perfect, it can still be beautiful when you take the time to notice and appreciate it. In the end, gratitude and presence aren't just practices, they're mindsets. When you cultivate them, you create a life filled with more joy, less anxiety, and a deeper connection to what truly matters. So take a moment, breathe deeply, and ask yourself, what can I appreciate right now? You might be surprised by how much there is to be thankful for. Lesson 10. Cultivating flexibility and adaptability. Life is unpredictable. No matter how carefully you plan or how hard you try to control outcomes, unexpected changes will always arise. It's in these moments, when things don't go according to plan, that your ability to adapt determines whether you thrive or suffer. Cultivating flexibility isn't about giving up on your goals or lowering your standards. It's about learning to adjust your approach, stay calm in the face of uncertainty, and find growth in every challenge. Many people resist change because it feels uncomfortable. We like stability, predictability, and control. But rigidity in the face of change creates unnecessary suffering. When you refuse to adapt, you cling to what was instead of embracing what is. This resistance often leads to frustration, anxiety, and a sense of helplessness. On the other hand, when you cultivate flexibility, you learn to flow with life's changes, finding new paths forward even when things don't go as planned. Stoicism offers timeless wisdom on this topic. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea highlights the importance of flexibility, not in avoiding change, but in mastering your response to it. When you accept that change is inevitable and learn to adapt with grace, you maintain your inner peace and clarity no matter what life throws your way. Flexibility starts with shifting your mindset. Instead of seeing change as a threat, view it as an opportunity for growth. Every unexpected event, every setback, holds a lesson if you're willing to look for it. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? How can I grow through this challenge? This shift in perspective helps you stay open to new possibilities rather than getting stuck in frustration over what didn't go according to plan. Another key to cultivating flexibility is developing emotional resilience. Life's changes often trigger strong emotions, fear, frustration, or disappointment. Instead of letting these emotions take over, practice pausing, acknowledging how you feel, and then choosing a response that aligns with your values. Emotional resilience doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means processing them in a healthy way while staying grounded and clear-headed. Here's something practical you can do when faced with an unexpected change. Practice the 3 A's. Accept, assess, adapt. 1. Accept that the change has happened. Resisting it won't undo it. 2. Assess the new situation. What are your options and what can you control? 3. Adapt by choosing the best course of action based on what's in your control. This simple framework helps you respond to change thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively out of fear or frustration. Ask yourself, am I clinging to something that no longer serves me, or am I willing to adapt and move forward? If you find yourself resisting change, remind yourself that flexibility doesn't mean giving up. It means finding a new way to keep going. Life is constantly evolving, and your ability to evolve with it is what leads to lasting success and peace of mind. Cultivating flexibility also means being open to new perspectives and ideas. Sometimes we get stuck because we insist on doing things a certain way or believing that only one path will lead to success. But when you're willing to listen, learn, and try new approaches, you open doors to opportunities you might never have considered. Remember, flexibility isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to adjust without losing your sense of purpose. Just like trees that sway in the wind are less likely to snap during a storm, those who cultivate flexibility are better equipped to handle life's inevitable ups and downs. In the end, life is a series of changes. By cultivating flexibility and adaptability, you learn to navigate those changes with confidence and grace. You stop fighting against what you can't control and start focusing on what you can, your mindset, your actions, and your ability to keep moving forward. And in doing so, you create a life of resilience, growth, and lasting inner peace. Lesson 11. Fostering empathy and generosity. In a fast-paced world where everyone seems to be focused on personal goals and individual success, it's easy to forget the profound impact of empathy and generosity. Yet these two qualities have the power to not only transform your relationships, but also bring greater meaning and fulfillment to your life. Fostering empathy and practicing generosity aren't signs of weakness. They're expressions of inner strength and self-respect. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It goes beyond simply acknowledging someone's experience. It involves truly listening without judgment and offering genuine support. When you foster empathy, you strengthen your connections with those around you. People feel seen, heard, and valued, which fosters trust and deeper relationships. Stoicism often emphasizes personal resilience, but it also highlights the importance of contributing to the well-being of others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What benefits the whole benefits the individual." In other words, by acting in ways that uplift others, you also uplift yourself. Empathy isn't just about helping others, it's about creating a world where mutual respect and compassion flourish, which benefits everyone, including you. Generosity, on the other hand, isn't just about giving material things. It's about giving your time, attention, kindness, and wisdom. True generosity comes from a place of abundance, not obligation. When you give freely without expecting anything in return, you cultivate a mindset of abundance and reduce feelings of scarcity or lack. Here's something to reflect on. When was the last time I showed empathy or practiced generosity without expecting anything in return? These small acts, whether it's listening to a friend, helping a colleague, or simply offering a kind word to someone in need, create ripples that extend far beyond the moment. They uplift not only the person receiving, but also the one giving. But fostering empathy and generosity doesn't mean neglecting your own well-being. In fact, empathy begins with yourself. If you're constantly giving without taking care of your own needs, you'll eventually feel drained and resentful. That's why it's important to practice self-compassion. Being kind to yourself when you're struggling, forgiving yourself when you make mistakes, and treating yourself with the same empathy you offer others. Another powerful aspect of generosity is that it helps shift your focus outward. When you're caught up in your own worries, giving to others, whether it's through volunteering, mentoring, or simply being present, can help reduce anxiety and increase your sense of purpose. Generosity creates a cycle of positivity. The more you give, the more connected and fulfilled you feel. Here's something practical you can do each day. Look for one opportunity to practice a small act of empathy or generosity. It could be as simple as listening to someone without interrupting, offering help when you see someone struggling, or even just sending a thoughtful message to someone you care about. These small acts, done consistently, build a habit of empathy and generosity that strengthens your character and enriches your relationships. Ask yourself, am I approaching my interactions with empathy, or am I focused solely on my own perspective? If you find yourself slipping into self-centered thinking, pause and try to see things from the other person's point of view. This simple shift can transform the way you relate to others and foster deeper, more meaningful connections. Remember, fostering empathy and practicing generosity isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up with kindness and understanding in everyday moments. When you make empathy and generosity a core part of your life, you don't just improve your relationships, you cultivate a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and inner peace. In the end, what truly matters isn't how much you accumulate, but how much you contribute. By fostering empathy and practicing generosity, you create a life of connection, meaning, and lasting impact. You don't just live for yourself, you become a source of light and strength for those around you, and in doing so, you discover a deeper sense of happiness and fulfillment. Lesson 12. Nourishing your mind and body. In a world that constantly demands your attention, energy, and effort, it's easy to neglect the most important foundation of a fulfilling life, your mind and body. We often push ourselves to the limit, prioritizing external achievements over internal well-being, only to find that without proper care, our energy fades, our focus diminishes, and our peace of mind slips away. Nourishing your mind and body isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for living a balanced, resilient, and meaningful life. When you take care of your body, you're not just enhancing your physical health, you're also supporting your mental clarity, emotional stability, and overall sense of well-being. Exercise, proper nutrition, and rest aren't just physical acts. They directly influence how you feel, think, and respond to life's challenges. Seneca once said, "A sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state in this world." The Stoics believed that a disciplined approach to caring for your body was essential for cultivating a strong mind. Nourishing your mind goes beyond simply consuming information. It's about feeding your mind with thoughts, ideas, and practices that promote growth and peace. This means being intentional about what you read, watch, and listen to. It means engaging in practices like mindfulness, meditation, and reflection that help calm your mind and strengthen your ability to focus. Start by asking yourself, what habits do I currently have that nourish my mind and body, and what habits might be draining me? Identifying these patterns is the first step toward creating a lifestyle that supports your well-being. For example, staying up late, scrolling through social media might seem harmless, but over time it can disrupt your sleep, drain your energy, and leave your mind cluttered. On the other hand, prioritizing rest, exercise, and quiet time for reflection can have a profound impact on your mood, productivity, and resilience. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to nourish your body is through movement. This doesn't have to mean intense workouts at the gym. It could be a morning walk, stretching, or any form of physical activity that gets your blood flowing and your energy levels up. Regular movement not only improves your physical health, but also releases endorphins, which boost your mood and reduce stress. Equally important is nutrition. The food you consume is the fuel your body and mind run on. Eating a balanced diet rich in whole, unprocessed foods provides your brain with the nutrients it needs to function at its best. It's not about being perfect with your diet. It's about making small, consistent choices that support your long-term health. When it comes to nourishing your mind, quiet time and reflection are key. In a world filled with constant noise and distractions, taking time each day to be still, whether through meditation, journaling, or simply sitting quietly, helps clear your mind and strengthens your ability to stay present. These moments of stillness allow you to process your thoughts, release tension, and reconnect with what truly matters. Here's something practical you can do each day. Commit to one small act that nourishes your mind and one that nourishes your body. It could be as simple as reading a chapter of a book that inspires you, practicing deep breathing for 5 minutes, or preparing a healthy meal. Over time, these small acts compound, creating a lifestyle that supports your well-being. Ask yourself, am I treating my mind and body with the respect they deserve? If not, start today. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish. It's what allows you to show up fully in life, for both yourself and those you care about. In the end, your mind and body are your most valuable assets. When you nourish them consistently, you cultivate a life of strength, clarity, and inner peace. You equip yourself to handle life's challenges with resilience and grace. By making your well-being a priority, you don't just live, you thrive. And that's when life truly becomes rich, meaningful, and deeply fulfilling. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about creating space for something better. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of what no longer serves you, whether it's people, situations, habits, or even outdated versions of yourself. When you let go of what holds you back, you gain clarity, peace, and the ability to move forward with intention. In this episode, we explored 12 powerful lessons on how to let go and create a life of greater balance and fulfillment. From unlocking the power of detachment to nourishing your mind and body, each lesson offers a practical way to reclaim your energy and refocus on what truly matters. Life is filled with constant change, but by learning to let go with grace and strength, you empower yourself to face those changes without fear. Why does this matter? Because clinging too tightly to people, expectations, or even past versions of ourselves only leads to frustration and suffering. But when you learn to let go, you discover a deeper sense of freedom and inner peace. You stop being a prisoner to what's beyond your control and start living with greater purpose and presence. Here's something to reflect on. What is one thing I'm ready to let go of today? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be a small thought, a minor frustration, or an unnecessary habit. Every small step toward letting go creates a ripple effect, helping you cultivate a life that feels lighter, freer, and more aligned with your values. Remember, letting go is a practice, not a one-time event. It takes courage, patience, and self-compassion. But with each quiet release, you make room for growth, connection, and a life of greater joy. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. We will now move further with 10 Stoic rules for emotional detachment. Emotional detachment doesn't always happen at the moment of goodbye. Sometimes you're still there, physically present, but emotionally lost. You're holding on to someone who no longer sees you, waiting for a word, a touch, a sign of care, and it never comes. Yet still you remain, not because you're weak, but because you believed, you loved, you gave from your heart. But at some point that attachment starts to strangle you instead of support you. And that's where the real battle begins. Not with them, but within yourself. Stoic wisdom doesn't ask you to ignore your feelings. It teaches you to understand them and redirect them, to separate what's in your control from what's not, to recognize the difference between what you can influence and what you must release, and most of all to see that attachment is not the same as love, and that love should never mean self-destruction. In this episode, I won't ask you to forget someone you once loved. Instead, I'll invite you to finally be free from the pain that's still tied to them. I'll share with you 10 Stoic rules inspired by Marcus Aurelius to help you reclaim your heart, your mind, and your life. The goal isn't to become cold or distant. The goal is to come back to yourself, to silence that inner voice that keeps whispering, maybe they'll return, maybe they'll change, because today you're the one who will change. Are you ready to begin this journey? 1. Accept what's out of your hands. Have you ever found yourself replaying the same moments over and over in your head, wondering what you could have said differently or done better, or held on just a little tighter so they wouldn't walk away? It's almost like our mind becomes a theater of regrets, showing the same painful scenes on repeat. But what if I told you that the first step to emotional freedom isn't found in rethinking the past, but in accepting the present? This is where Stoicism speaks loudest. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That one idea alone can change the way we relate to heartbreak. Because the truth is, you can't control how someone feels about you. You can't force them to stay. You can't rewrite their choices. The moment you accept this, not intellectually, but emotionally, you begin to release the weight you've been dragging around for too long. We often confuse letting go with giving up, but they're not the same. Giving up is what happens when we lose hope in life. Letting go is what happens when we choose to stop fighting battles we were never meant to win. You see, clinging to someone who's already chosen to step away is like grabbing a rope that's burning your hand. The tighter you hold, the deeper the wound. So ask yourself, why am I still trying to control what's not mine to control? Is it fear of being alone? Is it the belief that you're not enough without them? Is it the illusion that closure will finally bring peace? Whatever it is, the cost is too high because the more you try to hold on to them, the more you lose yourself. Detachment starts with a shift in responsibility. It means saying to yourself, I am only responsible for how I love, not how they receive it. I am responsible for how I show up, not whether they recognize my worth. I am responsible for how I heal, not whether they come back. That shift is power. That shift is peace. Think of a tree shedding its leaves in autumn. It doesn't panic. It doesn't cling. It lets go. Not because it failed, but because the cycle is part of its nature. The same applies to us. People come and go. Feelings change. What was once certain becomes uncertain. It hurts. Yes, but resisting this reality won't bring comfort. It only brings suffering. So instead of asking, why did they stop caring? Ask what part of me is still trying to change what's already done. Instead of hoping they'll wake up and realize what they lost, wake up yourself and realize what you've been losing while waiting. Time, energy, clarity, self-respect. Here's the hard truth. Healing doesn't begin when they come back. It begins the moment you stop needing them. To start with this. Sit with it. Accept it. Not because it feels good, but because it sets you free. 2. Stop romanticizing what hurt you. Why is it that when someone walks away, we suddenly start remembering only the good parts, the laughter, the connection, the promises? We replay the highlights like a film reel, as if our mind is desperately trying to convince us that what we lost was perfect, irreplaceable. But memory can be deceiving. Pain has a strange way of rewriting the past, polishing over the red flags, editing out the silence, the distance, the moments that made you feel small. This is one of the greatest emotional traps. Not the person themselves, but the idea of who they were. That's what we cling to. That's what keeps us stuck. You're not in love with them anymore. You're in love with the version of them that exists in your memory, carefully curated by a heart that doesn't want to let go. But Stoicism reminds us we must see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we romanticize someone who hurt us, we are reacting from emotion, not from clarity. We are choosing illusion over truth. And every time we revisit that illusion, we pour energy into a ghost that cannot love you, cannot show up, cannot heal you. It's time to take the pedestal down, to stop idealizing someone who couldn't give you what you needed. Maybe they weren't bad. Maybe they were just unavailable or unaware or not ready for the kind of depth you brought. But either way, they left a scar. And pretending they didn't is not strength, it's denial. Think about this. If someone repeatedly made you feel anxious, unseen, or not enough, is it really love that you're missing? Or is it the comfort of familiarity, the fear of starting over, the longing for who you were when you were with them? You owe it to yourself to be honest here, because clarity isn't cruel, it's compassionate. This isn't about bitterness, it's about protection. When you stop romanticizing the past, you stop inviting it back into your heart. You start to see the full picture, the beauty, yes, but also the pain. And only when you see both can you truly let go. So the next time your mind drifts back to those moments, pause, ask yourself, am I remembering the truth, or am I creating a fantasy that keeps me stuck? Because healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means facing the past with open eyes and an open heart, and choosing yourself anyway. Let go of the story, let go of the fantasy, and in that space begin writing something new, something real, something where you are no longer a second choice in your own life. 3. Create distance to regain clarity. When emotions are raw, proximity becomes poison. Staying too close to someone you're trying to let go of, whether physically, digitally, or emotionally, only deepens the wound. It's like trying to dry your clothes in the rain. You keep hoping for healing, but you're still standing in the very storm that soaked you. That's why the Stoics emphasized separation not just from people, but from the impulses and illusions that blur our judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." But you can't take action. You can't rebuild your strength if your mind is still orbiting around someone else's gravity. Emotional detachment doesn't begin with indifference. It begins with distance. Distance that clears the fog. Distance that allows you to see what was real, what was projection, and what was never truly aligned to begin with. This doesn't always mean blocking or disappearing, though sometimes that's necessary. It means drawing boundaries that protect your mental state. Stop checking their social media. Stop reading old texts like they're sacred scripture. Stop feeding the habit of wondering what they're doing, who they're with, or if they think about you. Because every time you do, you hand over a little more control, not to them, but to the version of them that lives rent-free in your mind. There's a kind of power that only returns when you reclaim your attention. And clarity is born from space. When you step back, you begin to see the dynamics clearly, the things you tolerated, the parts of yourself you lost in the process, and the way you settled just to feel needed. You start to remember who you were before the confusion. And more importantly, you begin to see who you could become after it. Think of your mind as a room. As long as that person is sitting in the center of it, there's no space for you to think, feel, or breathe freely. But when you open the windows, when you let the air of detachment in, the noise settles, the temperature cools, and for the first time you can hear yourself again. So ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that keeps me close to them? What would happen if I gave myself a week, a month, or even a day without their shadow hanging over me? The answers may scare you, but they will also liberate you. Detach, not because you don't care anymore, but because you finally care enough about yourself to create room for peace. Detach so you can return to yourself. Not the self they liked, not the self they broke, but the self you're meant to be. 4. Master your reactions, not their behavior. We spend so much time trying to decode the actions of others. Why did they pull away? Why did they change? Why are they so cold now when they used to be so warm? It becomes a full-time mental job trying to predict, analyze, and make sense of someone else's emotional weather. But here's the problem. The more you focus on them, the less you understand yourself. And that's the trap. That's where emotional attachment quietly feeds itself through your obsession with things you cannot control. The Stoics taught a radical yet liberating truth. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them. You don't suffer because they moved on. You suffer because of what you tell yourself about their silence. You don't ache because they changed. You ache because you expected them not to. It's your interpretation, not their behavior, that cuts deepest. And here's where you reclaim your power by mastering your reactions. When they ignore you, you don't chase. When they post something that feels like a dagger to your chest, you don't spiral. When their presence fades, you don't make it mean that your worth has faded too. Because their choices speak about them, not about you. Your reaction is where your freedom lives. And the moment you start choosing your response instead of reacting impulsively, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean you numb your emotions. It means you observe them. You give yourself the space between stimulus and response. You breathe through the trigger instead of becoming it. It's not easy, especially when love is still alive inside you, but it's essential because every emotional outburst, every overanalysis, every desperate message, it only feeds the very fire you're trying to extinguish. You don't need to change how they act. You only need to change how you interpret it. Imagine the strength that comes from someone treating you with indifference, and you still choosing dignity from someone pulling away, and you still choosing self-respect. That is the Stoic response. That is the beginning of emotional maturity. And it's not just about them. This is training for life. Because people will always disappoint, shift, withdraw, surprise. If your peace is tied to their behavior, your peace will never be stable. But if your peace is built on your response, on your clarity, on your principles, then nothing and no one can truly take it from you. So next time you feel the pull to react, pause. Ask yourself, does this reaction honor the person I'm becoming? Or is it just trying to win the attention of someone who's already gone? The answer may hurt, but it will also free you. Let the world be what it is. Let people be who they are, but master yourself, and you'll never be a prisoner to their chaos again. 5. Redefine love as something you give, not something you chase. Most of us were taught to see love as something we get, something that comes from the outside, given by someone else, validated by their attention, their affection, their presence. So when that love is withdrawn, it feels like we've been emptied, like something essential to our identity has been taken away. But that idea, while common, is the very reason heartbreak feels like destruction. The truth is, love was never something you had to chase. It was something you carried all along within you. The Stoics didn't write much about romantic love in the way we think of it today, but their core philosophy touches something deeper. They taught that virtue living with reason, integrity, and alignment is the highest good, and love, real love, is virtuous. It doesn't demand, manipulate, or break you to feel whole. Love is something you express through your values, not something you beg for through someone else's approval. So what happens when you love someone who doesn't love you back? That's when your definition of love is tested. If love to you is a transaction, if it only exists when it's returned, then of course their distance will feel like a death sentence. But if love is something you give not to be repaid, but to remain in integrity with your heart, then even when it's not returned, it doesn't break you because you didn't lose anything. You simply offered something beautiful and they weren't able to hold it. Redefining love doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means loving without needing to possess. It means you can say, I cared deeply. I showed up fully. I gave what I had to give. And now it's time to walk away with your dignity intact. Think about it this way. If your worth depends on being chosen by someone else, then your worth is always at risk. But if your worth is defined by how you choose to love with honesty, depth, and courage, then it remains untouchable, even in rejection. So many people stay stuck in emotional limbo, not because they're still in love, but because they never felt seen. They want that person to come back just to validate that their love mattered. But what if it already did? What if the fact that you loved with all your soul is already enough? What if the closure you're waiting for isn't a conversation, but a shift in your own understanding of what love truly is? Ask yourself, am I loving because I want to offer something real, or because I want to fill a space inside me that I believe only they can fill? That question might sting, but it reveals everything. Because the love you gave was not wasted. It was proof that your heart is alive, that you're capable of depth, of devotion, of something rare. That love made you more. And now it's time to give that love to the one person who actually needs it most. You. 6. Don't confuse pain with connection. It's one of the most dangerous illusions we fall into after a breakup. The idea that if it still hurts, it must still mean something. That the ache in your chest is a sign that the bond is unbreakable. That the pain is proof of depth, of love, of a story that isn't finished yet. But what if pain isn't a sign of connection, but a sign of resistance? What if it's not about them at all anymore, but about your own unwillingness to release the story you've been telling yourself? You see, the mind craves meaning. When someone we care about leaves, the brain scrambles to fill the gap. And because the silence is unbearable, we start to assign value to the pain. We make it sacred. We say things like, I still feel this way because what we had was real. But real love shouldn't trap you in suffering. Real connection doesn't survive on misery. If the only thing keeping them alive in your heart is your sadness, then that's not love. That's a wound. The Stoics taught us to look past surface emotions and observe the deeper mechanics. As Epictetus said, when something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. You can either accept it or resent it. Pain is inevitable. But how we interpret that pain, how we build stories around it, that's where our freedom begins or ends. There are people who stay emotionally attached for years, not because the love is alive, but because the pain has become familiar. They've wrapped their identity around heartbreak. They start to fear who they'd be without it. That's not connection. That's captivity. It's emotional inertia. It's forgetting that you're allowed to feel something deeply and still let it go. So here's a hard question. Are you still in love, or are you just addicted to the feeling of missing them? Because sometimes longing becomes a habit, and if you're not careful, you begin to equate sadness with significance. You begin to believe that moving on would somehow disrespect what you felt, but it's the opposite. Letting go isn't betrayal. It's the ultimate act of respect. Respect for yourself, respect for what was, respect for what deserves to come next. If the pain is still sharp, that's okay. That means you're human. But don't worship it. Don't feed it. Don't sit with it so long that it becomes your home. You are allowed to honor your feelings without letting them define your future. So, next time your chest tightens and your mind drifts back, ask yourself this. Is this real love, or just an echo of something I haven't fully released yet? The answer might not come right away, but just asking the question moves you closer to peace. And that peace, it's not the end of the connection. It's the beginning of a new one between you and your freedom. 7. Focus on who you're becoming, not who you've lost. After someone leaves, it's easy to feel like the story is over, like the chapter closed not just on a relationship, but on you, your joy, your direction, your sense of self. You don't just grieve them, you grieve the version of yourself that existed when they were by your side. And in that emotional fog, we make a quiet, unconscious mistake. We start living in reverse, looking back, remembering, comparing, wondering. But healing doesn't happen backwards. It begins the moment you shift your gaze from who walked away to who you're becoming now. Stoicism isn't about burying your emotions, it's about directing them. And that direction should always lead you closer to your values, your clarity, your evolution. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Don't spend your life wondering what the relationship could have been. Spend your life becoming the person who doesn't need it anymore. Pain has a strange way of showing us what truly matters. It humbles us, strips away our illusions, forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we overlooked while loving someone else. Maybe you abandoned your passions to keep them comfortable. Maybe you made yourself small to make space for them. Maybe you gave, and now you don't even remember what it feels like to receive. That's not your failure. That's your awakening. Because here's the truth. They may have left your life, but the lesson didn't. And that lesson is sacred. It holds the blueprint for the next version of you, wiser, stronger, more aware. But you can't meet that version while you're still chasing ghosts. So the question becomes, what will you build now that they're gone? Not out of revenge, not to prove anything, but because the time and energy you once gave to them now belongs to you. Start small, reconnect with your habits, revisit the goals you shelved while waiting for their attention. Read something that expands your mind. Move your body. Speak to yourself with the kindness you kept giving away. Day by day, these aren't just actions, they're declarations. They say, I'm not stuck in the past. I'm not defined by what I've lost. I'm building something better now from the inside out. It's okay to look back. It's okay to miss them. But don't stay there because your future is not behind you. And the person you're becoming, the one who made it through, who chose clarity over confusion, self-worth over chasing, that person deserves your full attention. Let their absence be the space where your growth begins. Let the silence become your canvas. And let your life speak, not in whispers of what was lost, but in loud, clear actions of who you are now becoming. 8. Protect your peace like it's your most valuable possession. When someone leaves your life, especially someone who meant everything, it's tempting to think the door is still open, that maybe, just maybe, they'll walk back in. So, we leave little cracks in our boundaries. We stay emotionally available. We check in on them. We keep one eye on their life, just in case. But here's the danger. Every time you leave that door unlocked, you invite chaos into the one place that should be sacred, your peace. The Stoics believed that peace wasn't something we find outside of ourselves. It's something we build, decision by decision, boundary by boundary. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." What he meant was, peace isn't passive. It's forged in the fire of what we allow, what we tolerate, and what we walk away from. So ask yourself, what am I still allowing that disrupts my peace? Maybe it's replaying old conversations in your mind. Maybe it's hoping for a message that never comes. Maybe it's checking their updates, their stories, their life, as if watching them live will help you feel alive again. But you know, it doesn't. It only deepens the wound. Protecting your peace means closing the emotional tabs they still occupy. It means choosing not to respond when they reach out just to check in. Not because you're bitter, but because you're healing. It means resisting the urge to prove your worth or to remind them of what they lost, because the more you try to get a reaction from them, the more you hand them the remote control to your emotional state. You have to stop letting someone who's no longer in your life control the volume of your thoughts. Imagine your peace as a fire you're building. Every thought, every choice, every new boundary, it adds warmth. But every time you let them back in without purpose, without clarity, it's like pouring cold water on the flames, and you wonder why it's so hard to feel steady again. Here's the truth. Your peace is not something anyone else will protect for you. It's your job. And that might mean silence. That might mean blocking. That might mean choosing solitude over drama. And yes, it might feel like loss at first, but in time you'll see it for what it is: self-respect. Peace isn't loud, it's not dramatic, but it's powerful. It allows you to breathe without waiting. It gives you back your mornings, your sleep, your joy. It reminds you that life can feel calm even if someone else isn't in it. So protect it fiercely, because in a world and in a mind full of noise, your peace is the one thing that cannot be bought, borrowed, or replaced. 9. Don't seek closure from someone who couldn't give you clarity. We all want that final conversation, that one moment where everything makes sense, where the other person suddenly explains why they changed, why they walked away, why they let go of something you were still holding on to. It's human. We think that if we can just understand, the pain will disappear. But here's the Stoic truth. Closure is rarely given. It's created within you, not through them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul." And that includes getting worked up over explanations that may never come. Some people left not because you weren't enough, but because they couldn't face their own chaos. Some people changed without warning because they were never honest with themselves to begin with. And some simply faded, not with cruelty, but with cowardice. Waiting for closure from people who lack emotional depth is like waiting for stillness in a storm. If they couldn't give you honesty when they were close, what makes you think they'll offer clarity now that they're gone? You don't need their words to move on. What you need is a decision to stop needing permission to heal, to stop hoping they'll tie up the emotional loose ends they left behind. Because the truth is, even if you had that final talk, would it really change anything? Would it erase the months of silence, the unanswered texts, the moments you begged for presence and received distance instead? More often than not, closure is not about answers. It's about acceptance. It's about realizing that what they did or didn't do is a reflection of them, not a measure of your worth. It's about stepping back far enough to see that love shouldn't be confusing or manipulative, or so fragile that it breaks without a word. It's about reclaiming your narrative, not as someone who was abandoned, but as someone who chose to rise when no one came to lift them. You may never know why they pulled away. You may never know what was real and what was performance. But you do know what it felt like. You do know how your body tensed when they were around. You do know how it felt to wait, to wonder, to try harder while they gave less. That knowing is enough. It's not poetic. It's not wrapped in closure. But it's truth. And truth, no matter how simple, is all you need to begin again. So let go of the script. Let go of the perfect ending. You don't need their apology to forgive. You don't need their confession to let go. You don't even need their memory to move forward. What you need is to finally tell yourself, I didn't get closure, but I got wisdom, I got strength, I got me back. 10. Choose freedom over fantasy. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself a hard question. Am I holding on to this person or to the story I created about them? Because sometimes we don't stay attached because the relationship was great, but because the fantasy felt better than facing the truth. We cling not to who they are, but to who we hoped they'd become, to who we needed them to be. But hope without reality becomes a prison, and if you're not careful, you'll spend years trying to relive something that never truly existed in the first place. The Stoics would tell you, reality is your ally, illusion is your enemy. Marcus Aurelius urged himself daily to live in accordance with nature, with how things are, not how he wished they were. That's what emotional detachment requires. The courage to look your fantasy in the eye and let it go. To accept that they weren't ready, that they didn't show up, that their silence spoke louder than any apology ever could. Freedom is not found in waiting. It's found in release. You have to understand, when you live in fantasy, you put your life on pause. You wait for texts that won't come. You reimagine conversations that never happened. You dream of a version of them that only lives in your mind. But life, real life, is happening without you. While you sit frozen in longing, your future is knocking, and you can't hear it over the noise of your own illusions. Choosing freedom doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight. It means you finally decide that your reality, with all its sadness, all its healing, all its truth, is better than a perfect lie. It means you accept the ending, even without the fairy tale. It means you choose presence over possibility. So ask yourself, what has this fantasy cost me? How many nights of peace? How many mornings of clarity? How much confidence have I lost chasing someone who wasn't even looking back? And more importantly, what could I be creating, becoming, building if I finally let go? You are not here to live in what if. You're here to live in what is and to build something beautiful from it. That begins the moment you stop asking whether they'll come back and start asking what your life looks like without needing them to. Because real love, the kind that's aligned, reciprocal, and empowering, never needs to be chased. And the longer you hold space for someone who's already gone, the more you delay the arrival of the person, the peace and the power that's meant for you. So choose freedom, choose clarity, choose yourself, and walk forward. Not with bitterness, not with regret, but with quiet strength. You let go, not because you stopped caring. You let go because you finally remembered what you deserve. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the past. It doesn't mean pretending you were never hurt or acting like you never loved. It means choosing peace over chaos. It means standing in the middle of your pain and still deciding, I deserve better than this confusion. It means honoring what was and releasing what no longer serves who you are becoming. The wisdom of the Stoics was never about suppressing emotion. It was about directing it, channeling it into something greater, into growth, into strength, into stillness, and most of all, into freedom. Because at the end of the day, the real test isn't whether someone loved you back. The real test is whether you can still love yourself after they didn't. So if you're listening to this today, still hurting, still wondering, still quietly hoping for a message or a miracle, I want to remind you, you are not broken. You are becoming. Every time you choose clarity over illusion, presence over longing, truth over fantasy, you're not just moving on, you're rising. This is your turning point. Not when they come back, but when you do. Finally, we tie all this up with Stoic principles for inner peace. What if I told you that your peace has never been in other people's hands? Not in what they say, not in what they do, not even in how much they try to hurt you. The truth is, no one has ever truly made you angry. They've only revealed where you haven't healed. Most people spend their lives reacting, emotional puppets pulled by strings they refuse to see. One comment ruins their day. One betrayal breaks their spirit. One misunderstanding turns into a war. But it doesn't have to be that way. The Stoics believed that real strength isn't about being untouchable. It's about being unshaken. Your calm isn't supposed to be this fragile thing constantly at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, or mistakes. It's supposed to be rooted in reason, in clarity, in the part of you that can step back, breathe, and choose how to respond, not just how to react. The world will test you. That's a given. But whether you get pulled into its chaos, that's your choice. Anger isn't what you think it is. Let's talk about anger, not the kind that erupts in fire and fury, but the quieter kind. The kind that simmers when someone lets you down or crosses a line you thought was obvious. The kind that sits in your chest and whispers, "How could they?" We often think our anger is about them, the person who was rude, disrespectful, careless. But here's the twist. More often than not, it's not about them at all. It's about the story you were telling yourself. The silent expectation you had that the other person didn't even know they were supposed to meet. See, anger shows up when reality doesn't match the mental script you were holding. You expected someone to be more thoughtful. You expected loyalty or gratitude or a simple thank you. And when you didn't get it, your mind screams, "This isn't how it's supposed to go." But who said how it's supposed to go? Did the other person agree to your terms? Did they even know what your terms were? Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That hits hard because what if your anger isn't just a reaction, but a mirror? What if it's showing you something unresolved inside you, something worth exploring rather than suppressing or exploding over? Stoicism teaches us to challenge our assumptions. So if someone else's behavior makes you mad, the Stoic response isn't to lash out. It's to pause, to trace that anger back to its root, to ask, what was I hoping for that didn't happen? What belief just got threatened? Let's make this real. Your friend cancels on you again and you're fuming. Not because of the cancellation itself, but because somewhere in your mind there's a belief. People who care about me follow through. They don't flake. And maybe that belief comes from past letdowns, maybe from a place where you felt unimportant or forgotten. That's not weakness, it's human. But the key is recognizing that the anger isn't about this one cancelled plan, it's about a deeper wound being touched. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And when it comes to emotion, especially anger, examining it is where the wisdom lives. Instead of reacting blindly, you start asking, why did this bother me so much? Why this and why now? And just like that, you go from being controlled by your emotions to learning from them. Aristotle believed that anyone can become angry. That's easy. But to be angry with the right person at the right time, for the right reason, and in the right way, that's the hard part. That's the art. That's emotional maturity. So here's a simple practice. When you feel that rise of frustration, instead of clenching your jaw or firing off a text, take a moment. Ask yourself, what expectation just got violated, and why was I so attached to it? You'll be surprised how often that single question can dissolve the intensity. Anger isn't your enemy, it's your compass, but only if you're willing to read it right. Silence is a power move. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. That might sound counterintuitive in a world that celebrates the loudest voice, the sharpest comeback, the most viral clapback. We've been taught that silence means weakness, that if you don't speak up immediately, you're letting someone walk all over you. But what if that's not true? What if in many cases, silence isn't surrender, it's self-control? Let's be honest. Most of us have said something in the heat of the moment that we wish we could take back. A sentence we fired off without thinking, a text we sent in anger, a comment that burned a bridge. But how often do we truly regret pausing? Rarely. Silence almost never haunts you, but angry words, they echo. The Stoics were big on this. Seneca, one of the most quoted Stoic philosophers, said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." And he was right. When we react instantly, we're not responding from wisdom. We're reacting from impulse, and impulses are rarely wise. Think of silence not as passivity, but as power under control. That moment when someone disrespects you, challenges you, throws shade, your immediate instinct might be to fight back. But if you can resist that urge and pause instead, something incredible happens. You start to see the situation clearly. You separate your ego from your values. You give yourself time to choose your response instead of becoming a slave to your emotions. When someone gets under your skin, it's not always about them. Sometimes it's a sign that there's something inside you that needs attention, and silence, just a few seconds of it, gives you the space to notice that. Plato taught that a wise man speaks because he has something to say, a fool because he has to say something. Let that sink in. You don't always need to have the last word. In fact, when you choose not to engage in every little battle, you conserve your energy for things that truly matter. Silence becomes a filter. It lets nonsense pass while you remain steady. And no, this isn't about bottling things up or suppressing emotion. It's about choosing your timing, choosing your tone, choosing your moment. The pause between stimulus and response, that's where your power lives. So next time you feel the fire rising, pause. Count to 5. Let them talk. Let them dig their hole if they must. Your job isn't to correct every offense. Your job is to protect your peace. As Epictetus once put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And sometimes the strongest reaction is none at all. Silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom in motion. Laugh at the ridiculous stuff. There's something strange that happens when you stop taking life so seriously. Not in the careless, avoid your problems kind of way, but in the grounded, I'm not letting this nonsense steal my peace kind of way. Life throws curveballs daily. A rude driver, a passive-aggressive comment at work, a plan that gets derailed for the 3rd time this week. And yet we act shocked every time, like we expect the world to suddenly behave. But here's a truth the Stoics knew well. Suffering increases when you demand that reality be different than it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." And what better way to challenge that estimate than with a laugh? Because here's the thing, laughter isn't weakness, it's resistance. It's your soul refusing to be shaped by pettiness. It's the calm refusal to let small things become big burdens. When you laugh, you're not pretending the problem doesn't exist. You're just making it clear that it doesn't get to define your emotional state. Aristotle once said that laughter is a trait unique to humans. That tells you something. It's not just a social reflex. It's a tool, one we can use to cut through tension, to shrink problems down to their actual size, and to remind ourselves, this moment isn't everything. Think about it. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You can slam the horn, yell into the void, replay it for hours, or you can exhale and smile like, yep, there it is, chaos doing its thing. Same moment, totally different energy. The first keeps you tense and reactive. The second keeps you human. Carl Jung offered a perspective that adds another layer here. He said, even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. The message? Expect some mess, and when it arrives, choose how to meet it. Plato believed that comedy and tragedy were two sides of the same coin, and you see that in daily life. One moment you're frustrated, step back 5 feet, and suddenly it's funny. It's ridiculous. It's just life doing what life does. The real challenge is choosing your response. Not everything deserves your outrage. Not every hiccup needs a meltdown. Sometimes the most stoic move isn't silence or discipline. It's lightness. It's perspective. It's that quiet smile that says, I see the chaos and I choose peace anyway. So here's your new reflex. When something dumb happens, before you react, grin, even if it's just a flicker, even if you're still annoyed. Let that grin remind you, you're bigger than the moment. You're not here to be tossed around by every little thing. You're here to move through life with grace. And sometimes that grace starts with a laugh. Think long game, not instant wins. There's a quiet kind of strength in walking away from a fight you know you could win. Not because you're afraid, not because you don't have the right words or the sharper edge, but because deep down you know peace is more valuable than proving a point. The real flex isn't dominating the argument. It's not needing to. Think about it. How many times have you won an argument only to sit with that weird, empty feeling afterward? Maybe you were right. Maybe you made your case perfectly, but instead of feeling victorious, you felt agitated, heavy, maybe even a little guilty. That's because the goal wasn't truth. It was control. And control rarely brings peace. The Stoics had a word for this, apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, but a state of inner calm that isn't thrown off by other people's chaos. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire surrounded by conflict, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, don't lower yourself to meet someone in their mess. Rise above it. When someone triggers us, it's rarely just about them. It's about what that conflict stirs up in us. Our need to be seen, to be heard, to be right. But here's the thing. Not every trigger deserves a response. Some just need to be observed. Plato believed that self-mastery was the highest form of freedom, and that includes mastering your reactions. If you always need to have the last word, you're not free. You're hooked. You're on a leash, pulled by anyone who knows how to push your buttons. But when you choose peace over pride, you become unshakable. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. This isn't about being passive or avoiding hard conversations. It's about discernment. It's about asking yourself in the moment, is this conversation worth my energy, or is it just noise? Because energy is a currency, and once it's spent, you don't get it back. Socrates famously said, "Strong minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people. So when the conversation starts sliding into gossip, accusation, or ego-driven drama, consider whether it's worth participating in at all. Zoom out. Ask yourself, what kind of life am I trying to build? Who am I becoming in this moment? Because the truth is, you can win the argument and still lose the connection, still lose your composure, still lose yourself. So maybe the real win is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to defend your truth and when to simply walk away with your dignity intact. Not everything is worth a reaction. Save your energy for the moments that actually shape your future. Let the rest go. Turn emotional control into a game. There's a kind of quiet pride in staying unbothered, not in a fake, I don't care kind of way, but in the deeply intentional way that says, I choose peace over pettiness. Because, let's face it, life throws plenty of reasons to react. People cut in line, someone talks down to you, a message gets left unread. But what if you flip the script and turn those moments into training reps for your mind? That's where the Stoics were ahead of their time. They didn't aim to feel nothing. They aimed to master everything. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. So, if someone's attitude ruins your day, it's not really their fault. It's a sign your inner world needs work. Now, here's a new way to approach it. Make calm a game. Seriously. Start counting how many times today you could have reacted and didn't. That's your scoreboard. Someone cuts you off in traffic. You breathe. Let it go. Boom. Point on the board. Someone gives you a snarky comment. You smile and stay cool. Another win. It turns emotional self-control from a chore into a challenge. And something weird happens when you gamify it. You start looking forward to opportunities to stay grounded. You begin to notice how much control you actually have. Aristotle once said, "What it lies in our power to do, it lies in our power not to do." That applies perfectly here. You can always speak, you can always fire back. But it's the moments when you don't, when you choose not to react, that build character. That's self-mastery. That's how mental strength is formed. Carl Jung added another layer when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Think about that. Every time you snap without thinking, you're being led by habits you haven't challenged. But when you pause, reflect, and respond with intention, you're rewiring your patterns. And let's be clear, this isn't about suppressing how you feel. That's not healthy or sustainable. It's about becoming so aware of your emotions that you know how to guide them instead of being guided by them. You're not pushing them down, you're lifting yourself above them. Plato taught that the first and best victory is to conquer yourself. That victory doesn't happen once, it happens dozens of times a day. In the comments you ignore, in the gossip you don't spread, in the thoughts you question before they become actions. So try it. Track your calm like a high score. Each moment you stay grounded is proof you're leveling up. It won't be perfect, but every time you choose not to react, you're proving to yourself that you're not here to be easily shaken. You're here to lead yourself, and that's the real game worth playing. Accept life is not as you want. There's this exhausting thing we do, most of us without even realizing it. We build mental scripts for how other people should behave. We expect our friends to always show up. We expect our partner to never hurt us. We expect our boss to lead with fairness and reason. And then when they don't follow that script, when they go off course, we feel disappointed, confused, even betrayed. But here's the part we don't always admit. The script was ours. We just forgot to tell them they were in a play we wrote. Philosopher Epictetus, one of the core voices of Stoicism, had a simple truth. Some things are up to us and some are not. That's it. That's the line. And it's a hard pill to swallow until you realize how much peace is hidden inside that awareness. Because the moment you stop expecting people to be different than they are and start focusing on how you show up in response, you reclaim your sanity. You suffer less when you stop arguing with reality. You stop waking up every day waiting for people to get it, for life to suddenly make sense, for the unfairness to correct itself. Plato once said, "Reality is created by the mind. We can change our reality by changing our mind." And that's what Stoicism encourages, a shift in perception, not perfection from the world around you. Carl Jung added depth to this idea when he wrote, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Think about that. The longer you resist what is, the longer it owns you. The boss stays unfair, the friend keeps flaking, the relationship doesn't evolve. And every time you give your emotional energy to the same loop, why are they like this? That question never brings clarity. It just drains you. Instead, ask the question the Stoics asked. What is in my control right now? Not, can I make them change? But, can I control how much space I give them in my mind? Can I control my reaction? Can I control whether I let their behavior dictate my peace? Socrates taught that the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. That includes your mindset. When you stop demanding that others behave in a way that comforts you, you become less reactive, less disappointed, and more grounded. You start living in reality, not in the fantasy version of how you wish things were. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's leveling up. It's saying, I see what this is. I don't love it, but I won't let it own me. Once you stop needing everyone around you to act right for you to feel right, you begin to feel a new kind of freedom, a calm that isn't dependent on conditions, a peace that isn't borrowed, it's built, and that's where your real power begins. Stop taking everything personally. We're wired to take things personally. It's almost automatic. Someone doesn't text back. A coworker gives a cold stare. A friend pulls away without explanation. And our minds jump straight to self-blame. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad at me? Did I mess up? But here's the thing. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. The truth is, people carry whole worlds inside them. Unseen stress, insecurities, distractions, pain. And sometimes you just happen to be standing close when those things leak out. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." That wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. He understood that most people act from their own noise, not out of personal attack. So why take their behavior so personally? When someone's actions sting, that's often a signal pointing back to something inside us, maybe an old wound, maybe a need for validation. But the mistake is thinking it's always a reflection of your worth. It's not. Plato taught that we see the world not as it is, but as we are. Our filters, shaped by past experiences and emotional states, can twist a neutral event into something that feels deeply personal. So when someone snaps at you, your reaction might be more about how you interpret it than what they actually meant. That's why the Stoic practice of distinguishing appearances from reality is so powerful. You pause, you look again, you say, what else could this mean? Think of it like this. You're not the center of everyone's story, and that's not a bad thing. It's actually freeing, because it means you don't have to carry their energy. You don't have to fix their moods. You don't have to own their reactions. Aristotle said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. But even that wouldn't guarantee peace, because people will still project their inner chaos onto you. So, what do? You create space, emotional distance, enough room to say, maybe this isn't mine to hold. You remind yourself over and over, if needed, what if this isn't even about me? That single thought can be a shield, soft but strong. Socrates believed that wisdom begins in knowing how little we actually know, and that includes knowing why people behave the way they do. So stop filling in their silence with self-blame. Stop interpreting every weird mood as a reflection of your flaws. You are not responsible for the storm someone else is fighting. You're only responsible for not letting it drag you under. That's Stoic strength, responding with clarity, not confusion, holding your center even when others lose theirs, and realizing that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is not to take it personally. Anger doesn't fix things. There's something addictive about anger. In the moment, it feels like armor. You feel sharp, alert, ready to strike. Your heart's pounding, your words get faster, louder. It feels like power, like control. But then the dust settles, and what's left? Regret, distance, that awkward silence after something's been said that can't be unsaid, broken trust that might never fully heal. Anger is a master of disguise. It shows up dressed like strength, but deep down it's often just fear or pain looking for an exit. It tells you that exploding is the only way to be heard, but really it's the easiest way to lose your ground. Anger is like that friend who hypes you up to throw hands and then disappears the second real consequences arrive, and you're left cleaning up the mess alone. The Stoics knew this well. When you react in anger, you might win the moment, but lose the relationship, lose the respect, lose your peace. That discomfort, that urge to snap, it's often a flare from your own inner world pointing to wounds or unmet needs. And if you can pause just long enough to examine it, you open the door to something far more powerful than anger: awareness. Plato believed that true courage is knowing what not to fear. And sometimes what we fear most is looking weak. We think that staying calm is surrendering power, when in reality it's the highest form of control. The person who can stay centered when everything around them is spinning, that's not weakness, that's strength with roots. The Stoic view of fire was this: use it wisely, let it warm, not scorch. That means channeling the energy anger brings into something productive. Let it fuel a boundary, not a blow-up. Let it sharpen your clarity, not your tongue. Let it push you to act, but not to attack. Aristotle once said, anybody can become angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not within everybody's power and is not easy. That's emotional discipline. That's choosing your response instead of being owned by it. So next time the fire rises, pause. Not because you're scared to speak, but because you respect yourself enough not to burn everything down. You can be assertive without being aggressive. You can be clear without being cruel. You can stand your ground and still walk away with grace. Because real power doesn't come from yelling louder. It comes from staying calm longer. Let it go. There's a quiet weight we carry when we hold on to pain, not the pain itself that comes and goes, but the story we attach to it, the grudge, the resentment, the replaying of what someone said, what they did, what they never apologized for. And every time you think about it, you feel that sting again. The same hurt, just recycled through memory. It's exhausting. Here's the hard truth. The person who hurt you probably isn't thinking about it anymore. They've moved on. They're living their life, sipping coffee, scrolling through their phone, unaware that they still live rent-free in your mind. Meanwhile, you're carrying around their words like a fresh wound. But it's not fresh. It's old. It's scar tissue you keep picking at. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." In other words, don't let someone else's cruelty turn you into a prisoner of your own bitterness. Don't let their behavior dictate your inner world. That's not justice. That's surrendering your peace. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That's the shift. Letting go isn't about erasing the past. It's about refusing to let it define you. It's saying, yes, this hurt. Yes, it changed me, but I won't let it shape who I am moving forward. You take back authorship of your own story. Aristotle believed that we are what we repeatedly do. So if you rehearse resentment, if you practice bitterness, you become shaped by that energy. It becomes your emotional baseline. But you can choose to interrupt that cycle. You can choose to practice something else. Forgiveness. Not for them, but for yourself. Plato taught that the soul is harmed more by injustice committed than injustice received. When you hold a grudge, when you fantasize about getting even or proving your worth, you're prolonging your own suffering. You're tethering your peace to someone who may never make it right. So try this, just once. Say it out loud. This happened. It hurt. But it's over. Not because you're okay with it, not because it was fair, but because you're done letting it hold you hostage. Say it for your sanity, not their sympathy. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what they did was acceptable. It means you're done reliving it. You're done bleeding for someone else's wound. You're finally choosing to stop carrying something that no longer serves your growth. The Stoics didn't aim to become cold or indifferent. They aimed to live wisely, to let go of what they couldn't control, to stay grounded in the present, not dragged backward by the past. So maybe the real strength isn't in holding on. Maybe it's in saying, I've carried this long enough. Now I'm setting it down. And then walking forward, lighter, freer, wiser. You're not here to fix everyone. One of the quickest ways to lose your peace is trying to manage everyone else's life. It sounds noble at first, wanting to help, to guide, to protect the people you care about. But somewhere along the way, it shifts. That helpfulness becomes control. And suddenly, your mood is tied to their decisions, your energy is spent chasing their change, and your sanity is hanging on whether or not they get it. It's a losing game. Here's the truth. You can't control people. Not your partner, not your kids, not your parents. You can't control your friends, your co-workers, or that one relative who refuses to listen no matter how many times you repeat yourself. Influence? Sure. Inspire? Absolutely. But control? That was never yours to hold. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Epictetus, one of their great teachers, said, "Some things are in our control and others not." The problem is we forget which is which. We think if we just say it the right way, if we just care hard enough, people will change. But change doesn't happen on your timeline. It happens on theirs, if it happens at all. Carl Jung offered a powerful insight when he said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Instead of trying to fix everyone else, start with yourself. Are you modeling the calm, clarity and compassion you wish they had? Are you showing, not telling, what growth actually looks like?" Socrates believed that true wisdom was knowing how little we truly know, and that applies doubly when it comes to other people's paths. You don't know what they need to learn or when they need to learn it, and trying to force the lesson on them often pushes them further away. Think about it. Have you ever wanted to listen to someone who constantly hovered over your choices? Probably not. Aristotle said, "The ultimate value of life depends upon awareness and the power of contemplation rather than upon mere survival." That awareness begins with recognizing your limits. You can offer insight, sure. You can extend patience. You can hold space. But the moment your peace hinges on their progress, you're in dangerous territory. You've handed them the keys to your emotional house. So what's your real job? It's not to micromanage grown folks. It's to lead by example, to stay steady, to show kindness without controlling, to give advice without expecting obedience, to release people from the unspoken contract that says, "You must change so I can be okay." Let them walk their path, even if it looks messy, even if you wouldn't take that route yourself, because that freedom you give them, it also frees you. And in that space, you both get to grow, not through force, but through choice, through presence, through trust. That's real leadership. That's Stoic strength. And it's the path that actually brings peace, not just for them, but for you too. Catch the story you're telling yourself. It's wild how quickly the mind fills in the blanks. Something small happens. Someone forgets to reply to a message, interrupts you mid-sentence, or gives you a weird look. And within seconds, your brain has built an entire story around it. A story where you're the one who's overlooked, disrespected, or never quite enough. And before you even realize what's happening, you're not just reacting to what happened. You're reacting to the story you told yourself about what happened. That's where the Stoics bring us back to center. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." That line is deceptively simple, but it's everything. It reminds us that there's always a choice between the stimulus and the story we create around it. We can jump straight into assumptions, or we can pause and examine the narrative we're spinning. Carl Jung had a similar insight when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." In other words, unless you start questioning the stories you've absorbed, maybe from childhood, past relationships, or even societal messaging, you'll keep reacting the same way and blaming the outside world for it. Here's where the ACD method comes in. Awareness, control, direction. First, awareness. Catch the moment your body tightens, your chest gets hot, or your mind starts racing. That's the signal. Instead of letting it sweep you away, pause, notice it. Second, control. This doesn't mean pushing the feeling down. It means slowing your response. It means taking a breath, counting to 5, or simply saying, "Wait, what's really going on here?" And finally, direction. This is where the real power lies. You choose a better, more grounded interpretation. Maybe they didn't ignore you. They just didn't see the message. Maybe that criticism wasn't meant to hurt. It was just blunt. Maybe this isn't a personal attack. It's just life being messy, as it always is. Socrates taught that the unexamined life is not worth living. And that's what this is about, examining the meaning we assign to things before letting those meanings rule our emotions. Because most of the time, it's not the situation that upsets us. It's the story we tell ourselves about the situation. Aristotle said that wisdom begins in wonder. So wonder, even when you're triggered. Wonder if the story is real or just familiar. Wonder if this is a chance to react the way you always have, or the way you wish you could. You can't always control what happens, but you can absolutely rewrite the script your mind runs with. And the more you practice it, the more you become the author of your response, not a character tossed around by your reactions. That's not just emotional intelligence, that's Stoic mastery. Solve more, argue less. Let's be honest. Most of us don't walk into an argument looking for clarity. We walk in looking for a win. Somewhere deep inside, there's that quiet voice saying, "I need to be right." And that's where the trouble begins. Because once ego takes the wheel, the actual problem becomes a background prop. The conversation turns into a battle of pride, not a search for understanding. Socrates believed that dialogue, real, open, thoughtful dialogue, was the foundation of wisdom. But how often do we actually have those kinds of conversations? Too often, we're not listening to understand. We're listening to reload, crafting our comeback, while the other person is still talking. That's not communication. That's combat. The Stoics warned about this tendency. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Simple but powerful, especially when tensions rise. In heated moments, the most radical thing you can do is stay calm, not passive. Calm. There's a difference. That sting you feel during an argument, it's often less about what was said and more about what got touched inside you. Insecurity, fear, old wounds. If you can pause long enough to see that, you stop reacting and start responding. Now imagine approaching an argument with a different goal. Not to win, but to resolve. Not to dominate, but to connect. What changes? Try this next time. Lower your voice. There's a natural instinct to raise it when we feel threatened, but a calm voice disarms tension. It changes the energy in the room. It signals, "I'm here to talk, not to attack." Then ask better questions. Instead of, "How could you say that?" Try, "What made you feel that way?" Instead of, "What's your problem?" Try, "What are you really trying to say?" Questions like that open space, not just in the conversation, but in the other person's mind. Aristotle believed that true wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. In arguments, that wisdom shows up in your ability to pause, to say, "Help me understand," not sarcastically, genuinely. Those words can take the heat out of almost any conflict. And here's the thing. When everyone else is reactive, the calmest person becomes the anchor. They don't just calm themselves, they calm the room. People look to them because composure is magnetic. Strength that doesn't shout is rare, and rare things lead. So next time you find yourself in a conflict, don't aim to win the argument. Aim to keep your integrity. Aim to steer the room, not by force, but by presence. That's how leaders move. That's how Stoics think. That's how real change starts. Your body knows before you do. Sometimes your body knows the storm is coming before your mind does. You're sitting there trying to focus, and suddenly your jaw is tight, your chest feels heavy, your breath shortens. And then, almost like clockwork, Something small sets you off. But if we're being honest, it wasn't that one comment or that little delay. The trigger was just the last drop. The tension had been building long before, and your body tried to warn you. Modern psychology backs this up. Carl Jung once said, "The body is the unconscious mind." That tight chest, that knot in your stomach, those clenched fists, they're not random. They're messages, signals that something in your inner world is trying to get your attention. And most of us, we don't listen. We push it down. We distract ourselves. We stay busy until, boom, one small thing turns into a full-blown explosion. And then we're left wondering, where did that come from? The Stoics understood this pattern even before we had terms like fight or flight. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. But how can we adjust our view when we're already spiraling? That's where bodily awareness comes in. When you notice tension early, you get a chance to stop the spiral before it takes over. Socrates believed that the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Learning to tune into your body is one way to build that new. It means catching the signal before it becomes a scream. It means seeing the clenched jaw as a whisper, not a failure. Here's a practical way to start. Next time you feel that inner squeeze, pause. Don't react, just notice. Breathe in deeply through your nose, hold for a second, and exhale slowly. Then ask yourself, what am I really reacting to? Not what just happened, but what it's hitting inside you. Is it rejection? Is it fear? Is it an old wound getting poked? Plato said, "The body is the vessel of the soul." And if that's true, then learning to listen to your body is learning to understand your deeper self. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. It's how you become less reactive, more responsive, less chaotic, more composed. The world will keep testing you. People will keep saying things, doing things, forgetting things. But if you can stay tuned into your inner signals, if you can respond to your body like it's your teammate, not your enemy, you start moving through life with a kind of quiet strength that people feel without you saying a word. Your body is an early warning system. Don't ignore it. Respect it. Work with it. That's not just emotional intelligence, that's Stoic resilience, built from the inside out. Protect your attention. Every day your attention is up for grabs, and not just from ads or notifications, but from people. People who want a reaction, people who push your buttons, test your patience, pull at your energy. Some do it with good intentions, others not so much. The internet troll who leaves a snarky comment, that coworker who thrives on drama, the ex who reappears just to see if they still have access. They all want something from you, even if it's just your emotional presence. But here's something the Stoics understood deeply. Not everyone deserves your reaction. Not every voice deserves your energy. And one of the most overlooked ways to protect that power, being selective about where you place your attention. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists," meaning the more you engage with things that drain you, out of anger, out of pride, out of habit, the more those things grow in your mind. That one negative comment turns into an inner dialogue. That petty co-worker consumes your day. That message from your ex, it reopens wounds you were finally starting to heal, and you wonder why you feel exhausted, scattered, frustrated. But it's not just what's happening around you. It's what you're choosing to give your energy to. Socrates believed that the key to a meaningful life was not in knowing many things, but in knowing which things matter. That's the filter you need. Before you respond, before you even notice something, ask yourself, does this deserve me? That's a powerful shift. Instead of reacting to everything, you start curating your mental space like it's your most valuable property. Because it is. Aristotle taught that the mark of an educated mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it. You can see the drama, hear the insult, witness the chaos, and still not take it personally. You can let it pass. You can scroll by, not out of indifference, but out of discipline. Because here's the truth, your attention is currency. And if you spend it on nonsense, you go broke where it actually matters, on peace, on clarity, on creativity, on joy. Every response you give to something that doesn't deserve you is energy you've taken away from what does. So protect it, guard it like it's gold, because it is. The more you master your attention, the more you master your life. You become less reactive, more focused, more intentional, and slowly, without even announcing it, you step into the kind of calm that people notice but can't quite explain. You don't owe your presence to everyone who demands it, especially not the ones who haven't earned it. Let them scroll by, let them fade, and keep your eyes and your energy on the life you're building, not the noise trying to pull you away from it. That's Stoic living, quiet, clear, unbothered. Gratitude, instant peace. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective can change everything. One thought, one moment of awareness, and suddenly the emotional storm loses its grip. That's the quiet power of gratitude. It's not flashy, it doesn't yell, but it has this almost magical ability to calm the chaos within. Now think about this for a second. You can't be genuinely angry and genuinely grateful at the same time. Try it. Anger says, this isn't fair. Gratitude says, but I still have something. It's like trying to walk in two directions at once. You can't do both. And that's why gratitude is the ultimate reset button. The Stoics understood this in their own way. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor dealing with betrayal, war, and illness, wrote, "Don't hanker after what you don't have. Instead, think of the blessings you do have, and how much you'd miss them if they were gone." That's not just a nice idea. It's a strategy, especially when your emotions start running the show. Carl Jung pointed out that no tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending everything's fine when it's not. It means acknowledging the darkness and still seeing light. It's the act of anchoring yourself in what's real, not just what's wrong. Plato taught that the soul becomes wise through reflection. And what is gratitude if not reflection in motion? It takes you out of the spinning story in your head and brings you back to the present, to what's still good, still true, still yours. And when you do that, even in the middle of a mess, you give your nervous system a break. You soften. You breathe again. So here's a practical challenge. Next time you feel that heat in your chest, that tension in your jaw, that urge to lash out, pause and name 3 things you're grateful for right there in the moment. Not big things, just real things. Maybe it's the roof over your head. Maybe it's the friend who checks in. Maybe it's the fact that you have the self-awareness to even pause. Socrates believed that contentment was found not by adding more to life, but by subtracting false desires. Gratitude does exactly that. It strips away the should-haves and why-me's and gets you back to what's real and enough. And from that place, you respond better. You think clearer. You move with intention instead of impulse. Anger narrows your world. Gratitude opens it. Anger sees the problem. Gratitude sees the full picture. It doesn't fix everything, but it helps you see clearly enough to make a better next move. That's the cheat code, not because it avoids reality, but because it roots you in a better one. So no, gratitude won't erase the problem, but it will give you the clarity to stop being consumed by it. And sometimes that clarity is all you need to turn the moment around, quietly, powerfully, stoically. Your peace was never about the noise around you. It was always about the strength within you. And every time you choose clarity over chaos, presence over reaction, you're not just surviving, you're becoming. The Stoics knew that real power doesn't come from controlling the world around you. It comes from mastering the world within you. When you stop being at the mercy of other people's moods, when you stop taking everything personally, when you learn to pause before you react, you discover something profound. You are far more in control than you ever realized. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about becoming wise. It's about recognizing that your emotional state is your responsibility, not everyone else's. It's about understanding that peace isn't something you find. It's something you build moment by moment, choice by choice. The world will keep testing you. That's guaranteed. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall through. Life will be messy and unfair and unpredictable. But now you have tools. You have perspective. You have the understanding that your calm doesn't depend on perfect conditions. It depends on how you meet imperfect ones. So when the world pulls, return to your center. When emotions rise, remember your training. When chaos calls, choose peace anyway. That's not just philosophy. That's how you reclaim your power. That's how you live like a Stoic. That's how you become unshakable.